building up right now.
Any question, and looks like we have a Satanist to begin. In the name of Jesus, I repudiate this unclean spirit.
He's like way over there. They're not letting journalists in.
Oh, I know.
He's in that little, prove me. He's right in front of the guy in the glasses, so.
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Not today, Satan. Not today.
Is that a good idea? We're off to a great start.
I need like an exorcism after that. You seem a lot less interesting than that.
I don't ashamed to go to school.
I don't know what that is, but I'm glad that I'm able to welcome you to ISU. Charlie, thank you for coming out. So I'll start off by saying I am a liberal. That's just who I am. That's what I believe. I spend a lot of time studying conservative Republican values, and it's just not for me, but I understand where it comes from. My major problem is what I feel is blatant hypocrisy and contradictions, specifically from you yourself. For example, a couple weeks ago, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett called Governor Abbott Governor Hot Wheels. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I didn't agree with that, and obviously you didn't either. You went on X. You said this woman is trash. But I would never take it that far. But on November 24th, 2015, Donald Trump mocked a disabled reporter, Serge Kowalski. He flailed his arms, made fun of his voice, and made fun of his face. And I looked up and down your X account. I couldn't find a single tweet calling him trash for that. You called Elon Musk a genius. I looked at his X account. He uses what's considered the R word. Over 14 times in just the year 2024 alone. He actually posted it again this morning, talking about the trade advisor guy. And again, you worship that guy. So I want to know why you hold the left and Democrats to different standards than you do the right and Republicans.
Well, first, I worship Jesus Christ. I don't worship Trump. Fair enough. I understand what you're saying. There's a lot to unpack there. So, first, what does your shirt say? I'm curious.
Oh, it says rigged election color blue steel.
Oh,
Shout out Zoolander.
got it. Was the last election rigged? I'm curious.
It's 2024?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. Fine. So fair enough. So you're asking, first of all, Trump never mocked a New York Times reporter. It's just been disproven like 10 times. The reporter himself even said that Trump didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, you're trying to find hypocrisy because Jasmine Crockett made fun of the fact that the governor of Texas can't walk. That is trash, by the way. A tree fell on this guy while he was going for a jog, and now he's in a wheelchair, and she makes fun of that. I think that's trashy behavior. Right?
Yeah, it is, and I agree with you. But he did mock the reporter. Anybody can go to TikTok right now. It's on video.
Again, this has been literally.
It was on every major media news outlet.
Again,
you can look it up.
This is 10 years old. I mean, you were like 8 when this happened, probably, right? Yeah.
I think I was 9. Just answer the question, bro.
Yeah, he didn't mock the reporter. The reporter himself came out and said that Donald Trump was not mocking. Okay,
You can see the video.
again, this is like a decade-old hoax. And by the way, do you got anything more recent that we can talk about?
Okay,
that, like
yeah,
something
sure.
that Trump said at a rally in 2015, a decade ago?
Okay, over the past couple of years, Donald Trump went on his Truth Social, he would always mock Joe Biden's stutter. Joe Biden had he had a stutter. Like that was.
Do you think Joe Biden was all mentally there throughout his presidency?
No, I don't. He's had a stutter his whole life. And are you going to make fun of him because he's not mentally there?
Outside of the stutter, Donald Trump never made fun of the stutter. He made fun of the fact that Joe Biden was not mentally capable to be president of the United States, and we were lied to about it for 4 years. Who actually signed these executive orders? That's what he was making fun of, and honestly, not even making fun of. It was a sad moment in America when our own president didn't know what door to walk through, where they literally had to have tape on the ground saying, go this way and go this way, where he had to read a teleprompter and he kept on saying, thank you very much, stop speaking. I mean, you saw that debate, I saw that debate. Outside of making fun, it was a tragedy for America that we elected a quasi-brain-dead individual to be president of the United States.
Amen.
Okay, but that had nothing to do with what my original question was, Charlie.
No one made fun of his stutter. I'm trying to get, so actually, let me go back to something you said. You said you've studied Republicans and conservatives a lot. Why don't you,
The policy.
why don't you tell me what we believe?
Slap shot.
You want to limit spending. You want to limit government spending. Essentially, in theory, run the government like a business. Try to make money and profit off of it.
What else? That's one of many things. Just I want to try to make sure at least we can have clarity about what we believe, right?
You play into religious traditional values a lot. The modern day Republicans have turned it into there are only two genders, man versus woman, abortion is bad, all that stuff. You got a very interesting crowd here, man. That's pretty interesting.
Vivacious. So let me ask you a question. Out of all 50 states, there are some that are Republican, some that are Democrat. You as a liberal, if you had to point to a state that was the ideal, that is the best run state in the country, what state would you point to?
Well, I don't study states. I don't figure.
No, that's fair. But if you had to say a state that you think is doing things in alignment with your worldview, that is, doing a good job. If you had to pick one or two states, what would they be?
I'm perfectly content here in the state of Illinois. I think it's a nicely run state. I love having a $15 minimum wage.
Okay,
I appreciate that.
Fair enough. And We'll just disagree. If Illinois was so well run, why does it keep on losing population?
I don't think it is.
No, it's a fact. In the census, Illinois lost well over 1 million people the last decade. In fact, every 9.5 minutes, someone leaves the state of Illinois.
Who is it that's leaving though?
Young people that go to school at ISU.
No, it's
people.
Republicans.
Well,
how can you judge a Democrat state because Republicans don't like it?
Well, actually,
that's just common sense right there.
Well, people of both
if I lived
parties
in Alabama,
are leaving.
I would hate living in Alabama, and I would want to leave Alabama.
Well, first of all, the trend of people leaving Illinois started well before. Actually, it started even when when Bruce Rauner was governor of the state. The trend was continuing. 1 million people over a decade. So as a liberal, I just want to have you, and by the way, it's not just Illinois, I want you to explain to me why so many people are leaving California, so many people are leaving Illinois, leaving New York, leaving New Jersey, and yet people are going to a net increase to Arizona, to Texas, to Florida. Why is that?
I don't study that. I don't.
No, that's okay.
That's not what I came here to talk.
Fair enough. But no, it's something to think about, because as a liberal, maybe people are voting with their feet because states like Illinois and California and New York are so terribly run with high taxes and bloated pension systems and radical left-wing ideas. Outside of all the back and forth and the gotchas or whatever, getting down to the concrete issue, our worldview is so popular that millions of people are moving to states that share our worldview, where millions of people are leaving the states that share your worldview. Just based on that, we kind of can contest that our worldview is more popular and therefore closer to reality and actually right.
Thank you, Charlie.
Well, I wouldn't say your worldview is more popular. Trump didn't win majority of the votes.
No, he did.
No, he won less than 50%. More people voted for somebody else.
He won the plurality of the electoral.
I'm not saying more people voted for him.
He won the popular vote.
He did, yes, he did win majority though.
Right, so just to be clear, winning a majority of the popular vote is incredibly unusual. Usually you win a plurality, not a majority, but he still won the plurality.
Yes,
he won 48%. He also won an electoral vote kind of landslide. Last question here. What do you think that conservatives get right? What do you think that we as conservatives, one thing you agree with from our perspective?
100% the taxes. I understand that completely. But I feel like we're taxing the wrong people. I'm a tax the rich kind of guy. That's just my thing.
What is your definition of what is rich?
More specifically, the top 1%.
Okay, so if the 1% is taxed to such a great extent, why wouldn't they just leave? And then who's going to build our businesses, build our companies, and pay the exorbitant amount of taxes?
Small business owners?
Got it. So, again, I can tell you...
I thought you guys were the small business party.
No, we are, but at some point, just so you know, a large portion of the 1% are the ones that own ones that own the small businesses. You need both capital and labor. That's fine. I'll just say this in closing. I hope you keep on studying, keep on asking questions, and ask people in this audience, why they believe what they believe. And I want you to think more deeply over the next couple days, weeks, and years. If Democrat policies were so successful, if they were so great, people would be going out of their way to go to Democrat states. Instead, they're going out of their way to go to Republican states. Thank you very much.
I like soup.
All right. It's definitely a souvenir. You're very polite. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Have a nice day, Charlie.
Thank you. I will, yes. If you disagree, go to the front of the line. Yes, next question.
Welcome to the light.
Hello, my name is Anthony. I'm going to pivot towards an abortion issue.
I've never debated that before.
Yeah, I don't think you have either. One thing I want to make clear is obviously there's people in the crowd. Obviously, I don't have the same worldview as people in the crowd, but I'm not here to negatively talk. I'm not going to talk down to people who have different beliefs. I think that's not something that our country would be founded on. I think respectful disagreement. But in terms of abortion, the one thing, shout out Dean Withers, I guess, but the one thing that caught my eye was our women with IUDs murderers debate. So can you just give a refresh and just explain if you think women with IUDs are or not murderers?
I actually debated this with Dean. No, it prevents conception.
Yes, but
it's no different than a condom or different than birth control.
But his argument was that, and I'm almost 100% sure you agreed with this, is that when conception happens, a unique human life is created when an IUD prevents Like unique human life.
It prevents the attachment to the uterine wall.
Yes, but when it's already a zygote, which is you would consider a unique human life, yes?
It's not what it's like.
Correct, yes.
So then you're saying effectively that the IUD is, by your definition, you believe life
That's not the way an IUD works. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but
Yeah.
it prevents fertilization.
Yes, okay. So turning off of that, in terms of like a conservative worldview, I want to talk about how, like specifically when you think of like like Roe v. Wade being overturned, like the right to privacy, that kind of stuff, when that's like a precedent that's been used for other cases, things like gay marriage, like Obergefell versus Hodges, if I'm remembering correctly, things like the right for like gay marriage specifically, I think is it's a slippery slope, because when you overturn a case that relies on that right for privacy, you can start unraveling things that, I mean, I would consider marrying whoever you want to, regardless of like your political affiliation, whether you believe in gay marriage or not. That's included in your amendments. That should, like, the right to do what you want. Like, isn't the Conservative Party all about freedom of like choice, like at like a baseline view?
There's a lot there. We believe in liberty, not license, so we believe you should be able to do things that elevate humanity and elevate your society, not license. For example, we don't believe you should be able to marry a 12-year-old.
Yeah, logically.
But that's freedom, isn't it? No, it's not, because that's license.
Yes.
So you must have the distinction, the philosophical maturity to know liberty versus licentiousness.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And then one thing I want to turn, because is like, so if you were to ask the entirety of America, if you're an American woman specifically, because they get abortions, if you were to ask every American woman, you know, including states with abortion access like Illinois or like something like a southern state which doesn't have it, would you say that they have more rights and more freedom of choice, like bodily autonomy, than they did before Roe v. Wade was overturned?
Of course, states that outlaw abortion, of course, have more rights. You know why? Because women that are in the womb aren't being murdered, and they have the right to life.
That's where you would come in, and that's just like...
No, hold on, let's think about this.
Yeah.
Is life a right? Do you have a right to life once you exist?
Yes, but then the argument is,
well, you
when
said
does
yes.
life begin?
Well, no, so then answer me the question. I mean, you know when I believe life begins at, not just what I believe, what science reflects, human development starts at conception. We can agree with that.
Human development, sure, yeah.
Okay, no, but if it's human development, then it's human life. You have to find another word other than life.
Yeah.
So tell me what word besides life you would use.
To describe, like, conceptions? Conception.
When it's fetus, whatever. What word other than alive? It's not dead. You could agree it's not dead because it has a heartbeat and DNA and the cells are forming and they're splitting. So if it's not alive and it's not dead, what word would you use?
I wouldn't necessarily call it alive. I wouldn't necessarily call it dead. I think there's a distinction. I wouldn't label it with one word just because it's like I don't have...
But let's think about this more deeply, because I can tell you're smart. We actually always exist on the binary of alive or dead.
Yeah, I mean...
So then you have to choose. It's either dead or alive. There isn't a third option. If you want to create one, you can go to the science department here and argue that. But what is the third option other than alive and dead?
I would say... I don't know what he said.
I don't know, but it's okay.
I would say the one thing I want to talk is viability. I know I'm kind of dodging it, but like...
No, I know you are dodging it because and I'm not trying to pinpoint you. Just to close the thought, then we go to viability. Abortionists cannot answer this question ever because there is not a third option.
Yeah.
You are either alive or dead. It is a binary of existence, right? Now you could be supportive when you are alive, meaning you might need to have medicine or you might need to have a ventilator, but you are still alive by all objective measurements. Or you are dead. We have a clinical definition in the hospital when someone is dead. We have an agreed upon clinical definition. We also have we do not have a clinical agreed upon definition of when something is alive. So when a human being is going on the process of human development in utero, it technically, of course, is alive, and therefore it's a human life, but we use all this different kind of trappings and language to try to dehumanize the being. Yeah. Let's put that aside. Okay. So think about that in the next days and weeks, because maybe it might convince you.
Yeah.
Viability.
So, like, in terms of viability, like, I believe it's, around 24, 26 weeks, where it's considered it can be born prematurely.
Yeah, at 20 or 21 weeks, a miraculous NICU baby can be born, but I will grant you, before that, it's almost, 24 weeks about a baby can survive a NICU. But let's take that example. So if viability was the moral standard, if a baby is born around 24 or 25 weeks, they have to go to a NICU. Do you know what a NICU is? It's okay if you don't. It's a neonatal intensive care unit. Yeah. Basically, where very, very small human beings, small babies go, and they have all sorts of machines that have to support them because they have not gone through the entire process of gestation. Basically, they were cut 15 weeks early. They're not viable. Yeah. Are they alive?
You're saying they're not viable? I mean, they
can't survive without machines.
They can't survive without machines.
So are they alive?
I would say yeah, I guess they're.
Well, then how is it any different than a 16-week-old that requires an umbilical cord?
Because okay, we're talking about viability. We're talking about the definition of viability, to my knowledge, is being able to exist outside the womb.
It cannot exist without machines.
But it's existing outside the womb.
Right, but it cannot exist without some other external supporting device. It cannot breathe on its own. It cannot clear its bladder. It's in a NICU. It has, and if you've ever seen the image, I encourage you to look at it online. A NICU, you'll see a baby that's literally the size of the Sharpie pen that has like 15 different contraptions. I bet there's a NICU baby in this audience, by the way. I bet, yeah, someone's raising their hand right there. Praise God. Someone that's, born premature in the hands. It's amazing. But it does beg the question, they were not technically viable under the pro-abortion definition, because they could not survive without external support. So an external support could be an umbilical cord, or it could be a baby ventilator.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I necessarily agree with specifically that definition, external.
Well, then that's fine. Give me a definition of viability, and I'll hold you to that standard.
Well, okay. So I guess the viability I was talking about, I guess I still will talk about, is external, needs to survive outside the womb. Maybe not necessarily on its own, because I've seen none of us, you can't even provide for yourself if you're an infant too, under 5.
Right.
But I would say that in terms of viability, something existing outside the womb. Yeah, you just talk about NICU babies, whatever. Not whatever. But
no, it's fine. No, but the NICU baby essentially is mimicking the gestational process outside of the womb. If that makes sense, because a 27-week-old baby would not be able to likely survive if it wasn't for all these contraptions or machines. So what we've done is we've created with technology basically a counterfeit, a pretty good one, of the gestational process that they otherwise would be getting in utero.
Yeah.
But they're still alive. When a NICU baby is born at 26 weeks, they get a birth certificate, they get a social security number, but they have a bunch of machines and they're not able to breathe on their own.
Yeah.
But we would both agree that's a human being.
Yeah.
Why?
I think, honestly, it's, I would say it's easier for me to sit up here. Obviously, I'm not a woman, I'm not pregnant, I'm not a mother. But I think at some point, it's easier for me to sit here and be pro-abortion versus if I was a mother, I think I would have some sort of obviously, it's a hard choice to make. I wouldn't, whatever. But then you also have the issue of access to healthcare. If you view abortion as access to healthcare.
Now we're slipping into a separate argument, which is fine, which is degree of dependency. We're running the whole gauntlet, and I'm happy to do all of it, right? So I think we have viability. We've
come to, yeah.
We've thoroughly, went through those fields. But now we go to degree of dependency. You say it is a tough decision to make. I will push back a little bit. When women are properly educated that this is murder, I don't think it's actually a difficult decision to make. I don't think any mom wants to murder their child. Now, some, might do that if they're really, psychopathic and, not tied into...
It's also if you consider it murder, but I can see what you're saying.
No, of course, but I mean, again, you have to then consider it something. You can consider it termination, elimination, but based on just very basic reason, human development, human life, the unjust taking of a human life is necessarily murder. And so, but then, let me just, complete the point. Is it ever right to take a life if you don't have the money to support that life?
Typically, money? No.
Because you said healthcare or access to that. Said differently, if a mother had a 2-year-old baby and she lost her job and she goes into bankruptcy and she's in poverty, are you allowed to eliminate or terminate your 2-year-old baby because it might help you save money?
No, and I understand what the point you're getting at. It's it's a 2-year-old. I understand that point.
Because we see
you're looking at a 2-year-old, it's the same thing as something.
It is morally indistinguishable than a 2-week-old in utero.
In your opinion, yes.
But I know, but you have to tell me why it's different.
Because I see what you're saying.
No, tell me what's different than a 2-year-old versus a 2-week-old in utero. What's the difference, other than one is older?
Because one isn't necessarily, I know I didn't define an actual definition of when life begins, whatever, but that's always going to be contested. It's always going to be, this is always going to be...
Well, it's contested for now. We believe biological truth will win. Because human development does have a starting point, and we believe that once ethics can align with science and biology, then human life will act. We will have an agreed upon idea of that's when life actually.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and then in terms of biological evidence, obviously.
Well, because just sorry to interrupt, but we have reconsidered so many scientific norms over the last 100 years. For example, when the smallpox epidemic happened, we used to give people arsenic because we thought having diarrhea would make it easier for you to get smallpox out of your system. We revisited that, and we were like, that was insane. We used to have bloodletting in the 1700s, where we would, if you were sick, you would try to get as much blood out of your system as possible. We also then discovered antibiotics, and we discovered germ theory. The same goes with abortion. The more we actually learn about the process of human development, the more ultrasound technology, the more that we actually come to the conclusion that it is a human life. And finally, let me just ask one other question, then you want to get to somebody else. Would you agree that what makes you fundamentally unique than the person next to you is your DNA? You good? Okay. Let me just repeat it. That's okay. Would you agree that what makes you fundamentally unique versus the person next to you, who's the bodybuilder, is DNA?
I mean, from you're saying, a biological standpoint, yes, the things that make me unique from him is at a like a molecular level, at DNA. But I would also argue that things like I'm different than him, not just because of my DNA, obviously.
Right, but to distill it down to its biological truth, DNA, you should have autonomy over your own DNA. Would you agree?
Over your own DNA, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I mean, what is the abortion argument? My body, my choice.
Yes.
Otherwise said, my DNA, my choice.
I wouldn't, when DNA, I see where you're getting at.
But then, therefore, if it's not your DNA, why should it be your choice?
Yeah, I see where you're getting at. I don't disagree with it, but I don't.
Tell me why.
Because it could just be me being pro-choice, whatever. If I consider access to healthcare.
Think about it outside of your ideological worldview. Just think about it. Just think of it as a free thinker. Why do you disagree with it?
I disagree because I would say that a woman's right, that is almost a part of her body, is.
Well, it's attached to her body, but it's not her DNA.
But
for example, your mom cannot vote for you.
Yes.
Your mom is a different, distinct person than you, right?
I would say that in terms of DNA, since I consider it, it's the mother's not job or duty, but I consider it a part of the human. I'd say you ask your mother, you'd say, when she was pregnant with you, she felt like you were an extension of herself. I'm not going to speak for her, but I feel like it's much harder than making distinct things. And I can sit here and debate, but I don't have nearly enough educated about it.
I want you to think about this in the coming days, weeks, and months, because that's what this is all about. I'm not here to just gotcha. I can tell you're looking at this correctly. We as pro-lifers have a hard job. Our job is to tell millions of people to take responsibility for their actions. Our job is to say that every human being is inherently valuable because it's a human being. Yes. And that is a harder argument. Your argument is actually way easier, which is, if it feels good, do it, and if something annoying happens, eliminate it. We think you should not be able to eliminate another human being just because it might make your life mildly inconvenient. Yeah. So we just have a difference.
Yeah.
Our job is harder, but we believe we're right. You think you're right, and I hope we'll win one day. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Can I get a hat?
Yeah, sure. I can tell you're a big MAGA guy. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, man. Yeah, if you guys disagree, you can work to the front, so.
Hello? There we are.
T-shirt in this weather, yeah.
It's actually very nice out with the sun.
I'm in the shade.
Yeah. So hello, Charlie. My name is Dimitrios. I actually drove 2.5 hours down from the suburbs to come see you. I'm Mount Prospect. I went to Hershey.
I went to Wheeling.
Yeah. I learned that.
Anyone else from Wheeling? No? Hershey. I will try not to hold that against you. Yes, you should boo Hershey at all times. Yes, you should.
I wouldn't blame you.
Awful color scheme, too, brother.
That's what everyone says. But so I've been seeing your videos for so long. One day, about 2 weeks ago, I was watching your videos, and I'm thinking, damn, just put me in, coach. I want to get in front of you, have a conversation. That would be the best.
That's bogus, David. What are they doing?
I wake up the next morning, and I see you're coming to ISU. I had to come. So here I am. Now, one thing I appreciate about you is that I could find your logical train of thought in a lot of the issues you talk about, which I can relate to and I really appreciate. And also, to the point that you've reached now, where you're hanging out with Trump, more than hanging out, you helped him get elected, you're going to Air Force One, you're going to Greenland with Donald Trump Jr. after the proposed conquest of the island. That's some Lewis and Clark type shit, to just see your name down there. And when I thought that, I was like, that's crazy how a kid from my area can do that.
And honestly, I have to pinch myself that just a kid from Wheeling has been able to. Well, I went to Wheeling.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about me for a second.
No, a kid from Wheeling who went to MacArthur Middle School and Wheeling High School is able to be, in the court of kings and travel the world. It's an only in America success story, truly.
Exactly.
So thank you for saying that.
That is something that I find inspiring, very inspiring to me. However, being that I'm from the same area, I feel in some sense obligated to let you know, sometimes when we get to that point, when we reach the highest of heights, we lose the sense of what's right. And I think I want to go in, like you said, run the whole gauntlet on abortion. I want to run the gauntlet with Charlie Kirk, Israel, Palestine. So
let's go as fast as we can, though. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you want to run the gauntlet. So why don't you tell me what you believe on it? That's the best way.
Well, I was planning on starting. I just want to confirm your belief. Your belief is a one-state solution. Israel's that one state because Israel is the true indigenous people to that land, and therefore they have a right to that land.
I mean, I would say it's a little more complicated than that. Number one, I think Israel's existence is a miracle, not a mistake. The new creation of Israel, 1948, 46. Number two, Israel has a right to exist. And number three, its neighboring government structures are, at best, let's just say, annoyingly evil, at worst, largely illegitimate. And so, mainly the Palestinian Authority. But we could dive deeper into that. Of course, we would welcome a multi-state solution if they're actually acting like states, similar to Jordan or similar to Egypt, not as terrorist proxies. But I try not to be too ideological on this topic. I am a Christian, so there is a theological undercurrent and element to it. But anyway, that's my position, and tell me yours.
Yeah, so I think my position is really, I think the question starts off a lot of the time with, does Israel have a right to exist? I reject that notion, or I reject that premise of the conversation. I think Israel does exist. Israel has won the right to exist. The question should be, and the focus should be, does Palestine have a right to exist? Or at the very least, do the Palestinian people have a right to self-determination?
Great, so let's pause there if that's okay. I don't mean to interrupt you. So what is Palestine? Who are Palestinians? And what geography are they entitled to?
Yeah, so the Palestinian people are the people that live in the land of Palestine. What is the land of Palestine?
So tell me, what is the land of Palestine?
Okay, so the land of Palestine is the region between Egypt and Syria. It was described by Herodotus as Palestina, and then it was derived off the term Paliset, which is part of the Sea Peoples.
Herodotus was way after the creation of the nation of Israel, right? So Herodotus was like,
of course,
like maybe 200 AD, if I'm not mistaken.
But the people,
what?
Time out.
500 BCE.
Syria,
the fuck?
Would that include?
No, between Egypt and Syria, between the Jordan River.
Let me list off a couple of things. Does that include Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, Hebron, Capernaum?
Yeah, all those areas.
So the modern state of Israel is what it incorporates.
Israel is located on the geographical region of Palestine.
So just so we are clear, Palestinians, and we have to define who those people are.
I'd love to do this.
Yeah. Do they have a moral right to set up a government in Tel Aviv?
In Tel Aviv? I don't know.
Well, I don't think you're the one contesting it, so tell me.
So I actually don't think right now, I don't think that's where it's going to go. I think Tel Aviv is the current core of the Israeli state right now. I think if any Palestinian state is going to be established, it's going to be, based around Gaza or the territories in the West Bank. But I think, what's it called? Sorry, I'm hearing this at the same time. Yeah. So, but I'm glad you brought this up because I think your position is that Palestinians as a people group, as an ethnic group, what do you think? Do you see them as a nation?
I need you to tell me. Well, it depends. You need to tell me who they are and what does it incorporate. So, is every person in Jordan a Palestinian?
No, not every person.
Well, then okay, but who are the Palestinians? Because most of them are Jordanian refugees.
So the Palestinians are the people that lived in Palestine. I'm going to expand on that. Are you ready? So the first people, the Canaanites, thousands of years ago, that mixed. I'm going to trust me. I'm smarter than you think about this, and I'm not.
You got to go quick. You're losing the audience. So
the Canaanites.
They're already calling for another question. You got to go quick.
The Canaanites mixed in with other groups of people. The Palestinian Christians. Okay, the first people to convert to Christianity. Where were they? They were in the land of Israel, right?
No, you're right. Israel, not Palestine. You're right.
Yeah, okay, they were in the land of Israel.
You just said it was Israel, not Palestine.
Yeah, I know. But listen, okay, so those people, so there were the Jews and the indigenous people at that time, right? That converted? Okay. And there's still Christians in that land today, right?
Decreasingly so, but yes, of course.
Okay, so aren't the Palestinian Christians the most indigenous to that region?
No, because the Jews predated them, right? I mean, the land of Canaan, or Judea and Samaria, has been the Jews for well over 5,000 years. Well, yeah, ish. 4,000 years. And so, again, we can go all the way back to the Mesopotamians, but the most rightful claim to the land is that of the Jews. Let me go back to one final question then. Let me understand. There are 45 plus Arab majority, Muslim majority countries in the world.
Yes.
Why does one Jewish majority country get so much attention, including your advocacy?
Yes. There's 20 plus Bantu majority countries in Africa. Does that give the black Americans the right to go and return to their homeland and establish a state? No, because when they did do that, when they tried to establish Liberia, they set themselves up as the ruling class. They pushed the indigenous Liberians into the interior, and they eventually got investigated for forced slavery
It was
practices.
a disaster by President Monroe. I will acknowledge that. But that doesn't answer. I just want, what would you consider to be a resolution to what's happening in the region? We'll end with that.
Okay, so I think Israel, they should, of course, I don't think a peaceful future will exist with Hamas. So I think
Credit to you. That's a morally clear statement.
So I think Israel's focus should be on that. For one, destroying the tunnel network, getting the hostages back, using their intelligence network that they used in all these decades to assassinate neo-Nazis on all different continents. The Hamas leaderships in different countries. Focus on the leadership. Focus on unconventional means to take out Hamas. And then, you know what? Work with the Palestinian Authority. It's corrupt. I will acknowledge you that. But you know what? It's better than the terrorists.
I find very little to disagree with that. We'll have to take this discussion on at another time. Thank you very much.
I would love to.
Thank you. God bless, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. That way. Next question. Yep. Thank you. Sure. Are you Greek Orthodox?
Yeah.
I could tell. Yeah. That's not an insult. I can sense. You said your name was like Demetrios or something.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Thank you. Yeah. I'm.
Hello,
Big
Charlie.
Armenian fan. Yeah.
Hello, Charlie. My name is Jeffrey. Nice to meet you. I'm also a Trumpster, as you can see.
Yeah. You're a super fan. I love.
Oh yes, I love you, brother. Can I have you sign this, please?
Yes. Really quick. Is that the question? Okay. Really quick.
No. So I heard that you. I want to know how you feel about weed.
Not a fan.
Why?
Well, a couple things. I could tell you, I'm not going to say it's because of this, but I grew up in this state, and I think I think there was a lot of bad things happening. I asked myself the question, has marijuana made Illinois a better place to live? Has it lowered crime? Has it made our streets safer? It hasn't.
Yes and no to that question. Yes and no. Because I feel like, yes, to your question, yes, people are still going out there shooting people, everything. I agree with
Legit.
that.
So let me ask you one question. Sorry to interrupt, because do you think, so when I grew up at Wheeling High School, if you wanted to get weed, you could get weed even though it was illegal.
Easily.
Are more kids doing weed or less? Let's just say
more.
Wait, legalization has increased drug use? We were told it was going to decrease drug use.
It does both. It does both.
Hold on. We were also told marijuana was going to make it so that young kids won't use it as much. We're actually seeing younger and younger kids.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Kids
I disagree with
at
that 100%.
Niles North High School at 14 years old are getting
That's
marijuana
terrible.
edibles.
That's terrible.
But legalization has made it actually more proliferated.
Yeah. I agree. No, I think that weed should be like for the kids. I'm not for it. I literally tell my little brother and little sister every single day. I'm like, do not follow in your brother's footsteps. Do not follow in your brother.
And I want to make sure I have the humility. I'm guessing marijuana has helped you or has done something for you.
Because my mom passed away unfortunately
Fair
when
enough.
I was 19, and that's why I.
It's okay. No, but I think, can you also acknowledge that some people that do marijuana have increased depression, anxiety, and it does goofy stuff?
100%. Because even me personally, I go through it too.
Well, I would encourage you. I would encourage you though to maybe reconsider the use of marijuana as a substance, because what it does to your brain.
It's terrible.
Yes, it is terrible.
It's terrible.
And so, should the government be making something illegal something legal that is illegal, where we know it's terrible for your brain. People say, well, what about alcohol? Well, I mean, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, like, I mean, I think we should have less people drinking alcohol, not more. I mean,
I agree, but
I'm
I'm
not
an
saying
alcoholic.
we should.
Here we are, brother!
Here, everybody!
All right. And make sure Jesus is the ultimate thing you're taking every day.
Jesus
All
loves
right,
me.
good. Yes, and I hope you'll break free
That
of.
shit pissed me off, Charlie. I was pissed. I told his ass. I let him fucking hear it. I let his ass fucking hear it.
Here's my. I can see you have a great heart, man. Here's my prayer for you: is that try the best you can to not always look to substances to find peace.
Can I ask you one more question?
For sure, yes.
How
And
do
I'm
you
not
feel-
trying to say that in a judgmental way.
No. I didn't take it to heart because everybody has their take on weed. Weed, I see both sides. I see why it can be illegal. I see why it can be legal. But my question to you, how do you feel about electric cars?
Honestly, I would never buy an electric car.
Look at me, brother.
But
Look at me.
I'm like buying a Tesla just because I hate the left so much and what
get
they're doing.
So I work at a car dealership. The people that work by my dealership at Tesla are on strike because of Elon, and I just laugh at them. I'm like, you guys are fucking hilarious. Why are you guys hating on them, bro?
Man, you have a great spirit about you.
Thank you,
Always
brother.
make Jesus first
Thank you,
and
brother.
pray to God that He'll find a path where you don't always have to look for a substance.
Thank you, brother.
or
God
looking
bless
for a
your
hit
heart.
to find
God
peace.
bless
Thank
your
you,
heart.
man. God
Thank
bless you. Thank you.
As a former user myself, that was nice. Currently raging alcoholic. Yeah,
Thank you for coming. First off,
might have had a little bit.
I just want to say, like, one of my core values as a Christian and as a man is standing firm in what you believe in. In 2021, I enlisted into the military. As far as
Thank you for your service.
As far as I know, is the only trainee at Fort Benning, Georgia, to decline the COVID vaccine, even when everyone was trying to force me to take it. I was discharged for it. So I truly believe, as a follower of Yah, we are called to stand firm in our beliefs. It's amazing trying to get people to wake up, but here's where I start to kind of question you. You're very for Israel, and I totally understand why from a surface sense, from a biblical sense. But as a Christian man who's about to have a little girl in October, here's my problem. In the Talmud, they talk about sexual intercourse with a little girl is permitted if she is under 3 years of age. You can rape a non-Jew woman and it is legal. And as a Christian, I mean, you look at our government, it's been infiltrated by the Jews. The founders of pornography are Jewish. The founders of transgender, the transgender movement and the LGBT community are Jewish. That's exactly what was going on in Germany. I'm not excusing what Hitler did, but there's more to it. And so as a Christian, what is your biblical perspective
This
to
is not the
supporting a group of
pro-Palestinian
people
group.
that are
This is not
promoting
part of my
satanic
tribe.
acts
Fuck
and are
that.
excusing
The fuck
satanic
outta here
behavior?
with that
There's a lot there. First, tell me what the Talmud is.
So the Talmud, I believe, is like a set of rules that it's kind of like our Ten Commandments, but on a bigger sense.
No, it's not that. So the Talmud would be to the Federalist Papers to the Constitution. So do you know what the Torah is?
Yeah, the Torah is like the Old Testament, like what
Close.
they
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
It's their version of the Bible.
Yeah. Well, the Tanakh is their version. It's actually our version. We have an indecipherable Old Testament. So let me just kind of give you a little bit overview, and then we'll talk about the Talmud. So the Torah is the most holy text in Judaism, which is indistinguishable from that as Christians. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It's the 5 books of Moses, otherwise known as the Pentateuch. Then there is the Tanakh, which includes, the book of Joshua, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. It also includes Psalms and Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Songs of Solomon, right, so on and so forth. Nehemiah, Jeremiah, Esther's. Okay, so that makes up the Old Testament, or they would call the Tanakh, which is basically Torah, Nephilim, and Kevechem. Okay. Then there's the Talmud. The Talmud is interpretation of the Torah and of the Tanakh. It is basically rabbis arguing back and forth. I don't know about those specific verses. People that are in Orthodox Judaism say that that is not true. I don't know. They'll have to refute and respond to that. I'm not a master of the Talmud. I do know the Torah very, very well. And I can tell you right now, nowhere in the Torah does it say anything that you just described or articulated. So you asked the question, why should we care about Jews? And I will address the other specific points. We are called to bless the Jews as Christians. In fact, you are a Christian, right?
I am, but
What religion was Jesus?
He was Hebrew. He was not the modern.
He was Jewish.
He was not Jewish. He was Hebrew.
Well,
Jews,
hold on. He was from Judea, wasn't he?
Correct, but,
Well,
but Jews
would
didn't
mean-
exist at that time.
Well,
The modern Jews are not the true chosen people of Yah. They created their own country in the 1940s. They established, this is their doctrine, the Yebahamath 11b, sexual intercourse with a little girl is permitted if she is 3 years of age. Charlie, as a man of Yah, how can you justify and defend a group of people?
That. That's disgusting.
But you're supporting them.
No, time out. I will say, though, that I've never met a single Jew that believes that or understands it. I encourage you to find a rabbi and confront him with that.
They have videos all over the internet.
No, yeah, it's not nothing false is ever on the internet, right? But I encourage you.
It's live interviews.
No, I encourage you to go to a rabbi and ask him that very specific question. But let me ask you, when it says very clearly, when Paul says that we should bless the keepers of the law, which is the Hebrews, do you believe that?
I do.
Okay, so we
the
should.
Modern day Jews are not the original Hebrews.
So let me help me understand that. So do you mean the Ashkenazi Jews, or do you mean the Sephardic Jews? Because there are two. Do you know the difference between an Ashkenazi and a Sephardic Jew?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so that's very important. So what you're probably talking about is the Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenazi Jews are Eastern Europeans that came into the region in the 1940s.
Modern
and
Israel. They founded Israel.
However, but tell me what a Sephardic Jew is. A Sephardic Jew are people that never left the region. They tend to be Persian. They tend to be somewhat
half Persian.
Okay, fair enough. But so Sephardic Jews are actually biologically indistinguishable than the original people of Israel 4,000 years ago. So not exactly sure where we're driving that.
Because that's the modern day Israel government. That's who Trump works with.
Well, no, it's actually both. It's both Ashkenazi and Sephardic.
It's not.
Well, no, again, if you've ever been to Israel, you could tell the difference in an Ashkenazi and a Sephardic immediately. The Sephardics are like screaming about like going to, go to war, and the Ashkenazis are, having a much more liberal, Orthodox Shabbat service. But let me ask you a question. You say that the Jews run our government. Fair enough. You said that?
Yes.
If that's true, why is it we send so much money to Hamas and Iran?
Because Israel created Hamas.
Okay, wait, help me understand this. So the Jews run our government, is
Correct.
what you say.
Correct.
And
Trump met with the Sanhedrin a few years ago, and they asked him to uphold the Noahide laws, which talk about killing Christians.
Well, so the Noahide laws are actually, we live under the Noahic covenant, and nowhere does it say it should kill Christians. What are you talking about?
The Noahide laws are the upholding of the... So Trump works for the Jews.
Tell me what the Noahide laws are.
The Noahide laws is a group of laws that the Jews live by that specifically say that they have guillotines. It talks about the beheading of the... it starts with the G. I forget the exact word they use to describe what they would say Gentiles. They have a word, noyim, or something.
Goy, which means nation.
Correct.
In Israel. Do you know that?
Okay.
So anyone who is not a Jew is called a Goy.
They all deserve to die, is what they say.
So let me just make sure I understand. So Jesus Christ, who himself was a Hebraic, Torah-observant, Shabbat-observant Jew, or whatever you want to call it, right? Because Jew just means you're from Judea. That's all it means, okay? You know that, right?
No.
That's where it comes from. Tribe of Judah, then formed Judea. Jew comes from Judea. Jesus Christ himself honored the law. Does that mean anything to you?
It does. So if we're going to say that Jesus honored the law, how is justifying
and the keepers
the rape
of, the law.
Of a child under 3 years old?
That's not the Talmud is not the law.
That is what they preach in Israel. They preach in their schools. They talk about it openly.
I encourage you to find me a singular instance of somebody in Israel talking about the legitimate raping of 3-year-olds. That doesn't exist.
Look at our government in Hollywood, who's run by Jews, the sex trafficking. The Jews run the sex trafficking. There itself, Charlie. Donald Trump himself.
But it's easy to say they run the Jews. Oh, the Jews run everything. If the Jews run everything, why is there so much anti-Semitism?
Because anti-Semitism is a construct created by the New World Order agenda that is being pushed onto us.
Jews, it's kind of like global warming. And your theory is very similar to global warming. If it gets warmer, it's global warming. If it gets cooler, it's global warming. If there's anti-Semitism, it's the Jews. If there's no anti-Semitism, it's the Jews. We send money to Hamas, it's the Jews. We send money to Israel, it's the Jews. So at some point you have to tell me, like, they basically control everything, whether it hurts them or it helps them. Is that correct?
Israel wants the New World Order. They're the synagogue of Satan. It says so in Revelation, Charlie.
You think
the synagogue
Israel
of Satan?
Is the synagogue
of Satan.
Okay, actually, It doesn't say that.
In the Bible, it says that there will be a group of people who call themselves the chosen people of Yah, but they are the synagogue of Satan. Charlie, we live in the end times. Trump works for the...
I can't agree with that. So let me ask you, since you believe we live in the end times, what do you think? Do you think the modern creation of Israel is fulfillment of biblical prophecy?
It is not.
Okay, then we disagree. Then what do you think it is?
It is a satanic agenda to push a new world order. That's why they were fought in the 1940s. World War II was fought not over what everyone thought it was fought of. Every war is fought by, it is funded by the rich, the Rockefellers, all the rich, the Rothschilds.
Okay, so yeah, let me ask you a question.
They funded all those wars.
Was Hitler bad?
I think Hitler was bad, yes. Hitler was bad, yes.
Low-hanging fruit there.
Did the Holocaust happen?
The Holocaust did happen.
How many people died?
Not 6 million.
How many?
It was not 6 million.
How many?
I don't have an exact number, Charlie. I don't have an exact number, but it wasn't 6
Okay, but you said
million.
it's not 6 million. You must have an alternative. How do you know it's not 6 million?
Because there wasn't even 6 million Jews in Germany.
Okay, well, I mean, you tell me. You're the expert. How many people died?
Charlie, what books were they burning? What books were they burning? The Talmud.
Well,
They kicked a Rothschild out of the Berlin Bank.
So, okay, I mean, just was Hitler justified in his critique of Judaism?
I don't think he went about it the right way. I think he was wrong by killing people.
So Hitler just implemented it wrong.
Look at the window.
So I'm not justifying Hitler. I do not support Hitler.
You know you're losing the debate when you
the
have
genocide.
to insert that in.
No,
I'm not justifying Hitler.
No, because the genocide of anyone is not okay. The genocide of anyone, even Palestinians, the genocide of innocent children.
I'm glad you say it's a genocide.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. The reason why Jews have been run out of 109 countries throughout history is because every time they get into a country, they try and take it over. In Nazi Germany, again, they are having transgender surgeries, underground transgender surgeries. They were promoting homosexuality in schools. They were literally preaching a pagan way of life.
Wait, so who was Mengele?
I don't know who Mengele is.
You don't know Mengele? Mengele was the Nazi doctor who actually was the one that was performing so many of these surgeries. It wasn't the Jews alone that were doing this. The Nazis themselves were doing these horrific surgeries. Now, let me just kind of pause. You believe that the Jews run the American government.
That's not a secret, Charlie.
Well, no, I find it hilarious that
all of Trump's cabinet is Jewish.
Well, hold on. Trump's whole cabinet. JD
They have Jewish connections. They're married to a Jew. They have
JD
Jewish
Vance
descent.
is Catholic. Tulsi Gabbard is Hindu.
Jewish. They all have Jewish connections.
Every
single person is
Jewish. Christine Nome is an evangelical
They've converted
Christian.
to Judaism or Catholicism. They all have an AIPAC advisor. Not a single person in Congress can make a decision without asking their Israeli Jewish AIPAC advisor if it's okay to say.
Entire list.
Israel did 9/11, Charlie.
Oh, they did.
Why are we in the Middle? I serve. Why were we in the Middle East?
Well, I mean,
why were we in the Middle East?
You can reject involvement in the Middle East without also believing Israel did 9/11. So if Israel did 9/11, help me understand this. Who were the hijackers of the planes?
They weren't hijackers.
Oh, okay.
CIA and Israel worked together.
No. Explain to me what happened on the aircraft.
Okay, first off, what we have to understand, there's only one plane that actually crashed.
No, there were three.
No, the building's imploded.
Okay,
if a plane's going to hit a building, why would the building fall down?
Time out. Flight 93, did it exist?
Flight 93 existed, yes.
Okay, so who tried to hijack that plane?
They sacrificed those people to make it look like Bush was targeted because they wanted to cover up Bush's involvement. He just happened to be in Texas reading a book to elementary kids, and they were reading a sign on a whiteboard that talked about towers falling, Charlie.
Anti-Semitism.
We've been lied to since the beginning of this country. Jews, Freemasons, all of it's a satanic agenda. Israel is the synagogue of Satan. They're killing innocent people in Palestine over the guise of sovereignty. New world order is coming, Charlie.
Guys, let me tell you. Anti-Semitism is literally a brain cancer, as you could see.
How is this anti-Semitic, Charlie? How is it anti-Semitic?
How is it anti-Semitic?
How am I hating on Jews when I'm saying that they...
you keep interrupting me. Israel did 9/11 is a rather anti-Semitic thing to say. Explain to me Flight 93 and the families aboard that lost their loved ones. Who actually was the hijacker? Was it a Mossad agent?
No.
Okay, who was it?
The government put them there.
No, who was it?
They crashed a plane intentionally to make it look like George W. Bush was targeted.
Who was the hijacker? No, this is important. They can never answer this question. Who was the hijacker?
They didn't have real hijackers. They were plants.
So when
they were plants, CIA, Mossad created.
So when they got the black box, of course, it was all just like a conspiracy.
Just like they found the passport miraculously 2 miles down from the crash site in
I'm sorry, what?
They just happened to find one of the hijackers' passports laying on the ground 2 miles away from the crash site in New York. It just happened to be there. They just walked up and found it.
That's
They just randomly happen to find a perfectly
familiar
good
with that
passport.
piece
Look
of
it
data.
up. Look up the passport.
Look, here, there's so much wrong with your worldview, but the biggest problem with your worldview is this, is that you are looking to other people to blame for all of our problems, especially a small group of people, albeit flawed. Every group is flawed. I'm not going to defend everything that every group has ever done. But I find it to be rather insidious and very treacherous, because you're going out of your way to try to create this big web of connections, and it's the Jews, and it's the Jews, and it's the Jews, and why are people overweight? Well, it's because of the Jews, and why are people sad? Because it's the Jews.
I never said that.
No, you're heavily inferring that every problem imaginable is the Jews.
I did not say every problem.
Well, I mean, he basically did, everybody, right?
The problems within government, yes.
But it does beg the question, though, which is that your obsession with this group of people is so unhealthy. And it's not merited, in fact. Well, I would say, the people that control our government, the people who control our government,
pedophiles, Satanists.
Okay, I actually think the people who control our government are secular leftist Marxists in the deep state. They're not exactly the Jews, but they're people that want to overturn Donald Trump being able to deport illegal aliens in this country. I think the people actually controlling our country are not the Jews. Actually, it's a combination of people that want to see the United States of America cripple and fall and keep open borders and mass inflation. Yeah, exactly. It's your answer to everything.
Charlie, it's the New World Order. It's in Scripture.
Well, again, I read the same scripture you do. You're heavily inferring and reading into Daniel and Ezekiel and
the Old
into
Testament
Revelation.
still applies.
Okay, yes, I do. The Old Testament does still apply. Yes.
So yes, I'm inferring into the Old Testament.
Yes, again, you're inferring a lot into the Old Testament. Have the Jews ever done anything good?
No. Now, the modern day Jews, no. The modern day Jews, no. God's chosen people, yes. God's chosen people, yes. The modern day Jews, there's a reason they were not founded until the 1940s. It's not biblical prophecy, Charlie.
We're all about to agree on something right here. Fuck this guy.
They're controlled by the Jews. All they do is worship the Jews. Trump put Netanyahu's seat out for him.
May God bless you and keep you. I will give you the Levitical blessing.
I pray you wake up, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just say a final thought on this, guys. Anti-Semitism is literally a brainwash that stops your ability to think independently, and you start blaming everything on a very small group of people. And let me say, that has no place in decent society, even saying, well, Hitler wasn't wrong about everything. Yeah, okay. Next question.
What's up, Charlie? I'm a huge fan. One thing that I haven't seen you speak on yet is your opinion on people sitting or kneeling for the national anthem, and how someone who disagrees with that should approach saying something to them, or if they should say something to them.
That, and you should tell them to stop and to have some respect for the flag. I mean, I believe that when Colin Kaepernick did that.
I agree with you as well. I was just wondering.
Is that still a thing? Do people still kneel during the national anthem?
Yes. I just had 2 instances of it this past week, and I went up to them and asked them why, and they proceeded to say they have no actual reason, they just wanted to be disrespectful. So I was wondering how I could fix that personally, like if I have a conversation, or like how should I approach that?
Yeah, tell them to, if you hate this country so much, leave. And you can't even stand for our national anthem. I think it's repulsive and an insult to every veteran that served this nation and bled and died for our country. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, sign it. Yeah. Disagreements, guys, can work their way up.
Hey Charlie, it's good to see you promoting political discourse at campuses around the nation. With that being said, I'd also like to make the claim that you're one of the leading conservative figures in the modern day conservative movement, which makes me believe it's appropriate to ask you this question. Why should I still vote and support the modern day conservative movement headed by Donald Trump? Now, just to see where I'm coming from here, I just want to briefly take a step back and look at 2016, where Trump promoted this establishment-threatening, bold agenda in America First. That was headlined by policies such as cutting immigration, ending foreign wars, protecting American jobs, rejecting corporate control, and stuff of that nature. However, in recent times, it seems those lines have become blurred, and in some cases, even done a 180 or a complete reversal. For example, been on the biggest military buildup in the Middle East since Iraq, with airstrikes littering the region, and now assets being moved to Diego Garcia, in what seems for preparation, or as I hope, just a deterrence against an imminent war with Iran. We also have Donald Trump doing a complete reverse on his H-1B stance, now saying or promising to staple green cards to diplomas of college students. We also have...
You know what's so funny? I keep getting the same question word for word. Do you guys coordinate this ahead of time?
I think it's just common sense.
No, I think you guys must have like a group chat of all the guys that don't have girlfriends.
Well, you know, name calling is much easier than actually addressing the issue at hand.
Why should I still vote for Trump? Because he's going to keep stapling visas. I know what this is. I have to interrupt you. This is an attempted attack from the right to try to delegitimize President Trump. Well, no, let me just kind of go piece by piece. Is he not doing the largest deportation effort in American history? No. Actually, he is. And a judge has just greenlit. We are now going to have MS-13 out of our country and Tren de Aragua out of our country. That's what we're voting for. Number two, we are going to see a resolution to the Russian-Ukrainian war. Number three, we actually have a border. You should say thank you, President Trump, that we don't have 10,000 people a day coming across our southern border. Can you say thank you, Donald Trump? 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 Can you say thank you, Donald Trump, for a border? Or are you just going to keep on complaining? Because in every single tourist stop, it's the same thing. And at the core is a premise
10 million immigrants in the last 4 years under Joe Biden.
Is a premise of
4 million in the last decade.
Right.
Now the
So I know what you're going to say before you say it. Why should I keep on supporting Donald Trump? Because he wasn't the same as in 2016. Here's the essence of it. He's been president for 75 to 80 days, whatever it is. We have a border. We're deporting the foreign invaders of our nation. We're finally putting tariffs on our enemies to protect the American worker. In fact, President Trump is willing to risk a pretty major downturn in the stock market to fight for American workers. Can you say thank you to that?
I agree. I think the tariffs...
Hey, we got an agreement, everybody. Listen, give him the time to fulfill the agenda. I will agree on the H-1B visa issue. It's a major problem. I hope it gets solved. However, this kind of rehearsed critique from the right acting as if President Trump is anything less than a promise keeper president, I think is rooted in ingratitude, rabble-rousing, and also at the core, we have a populist nationalist President Trump who's going out of his way to do everything he said he was going to do as president. Thank you very much for your time.
See, I didn't ask for perspectives, I asked for accountability.
I know your question before.
And if the movement can't give accountability, then it doesn't deserve royalty from...
Thank you.
Where's your daddy? Dude, he just made you a son.
I was chatting with that devil fella earlier because I don't think they're honest. Even if I think they're ghoulish and I think they're up to no good, that's part of why I'm here. But he was telling me that he's actually going to put a curse for the plague on every single person here who's not
Hey, afford some socks.
if I was hosting some kind of event, I was...
That's okay. The name of Jesus is superior to all the fake pagan nonsense. Are you okay? He's coughing.
I don't feel so good, Charlie Kirk.
Whoa. Can we get him some medical attention? Like a stick or something?
He said Jesus and
Man, I'll tell you what, do not play games of paganism or unclean spirits. You could joke around about it with the occult or Wiccan boards. I'll tell you what, guys, Jesus is king, and Christ is king, and there is an unknown, unseen demonic realm. Do not play games with that stuff, everybody. It's not the same power as the blood of Jesus, but man, that is no joke. Yes, Jesus, that's right. Yes, sir.
So my question is about DEI, and hang on.
Fine, let him ask the question.
So in America, you know, everyone talks about systematic racism, right? And for me, I feel like DEI is a form of systematic racism because you're hiring people based off their color, their race, their gender. And I'm going to education, and I see a lot of stuff about DEI, And I was just curious, like, what your thoughts if do you think DEI is a form of systematic racism?
Systemic, yes.
Yeah, systemic.
Yeah, for sure, it is. And I'm happy to discuss it with someone who supports DEI later. But we should not hire people based on the color of their skin. We should hire them based on excellence and how good they are at their job.
Yeah, it's just very frustrating because I think that a lot of people think of systematic racism as like, systemic racism as it's people who of color are oppressed, but I don't agree with that. I think that people need to be hired based off their merit, and it's just very frustrating to see that.
I totally agree. You as a white person should not be discriminated against just because of the color of your skin.
Yeah, and I see it even because I'm going to special ed, and there's not like it's a female-dominant role. But being a male, they ask me, oh, you're a male and you're going to special ed, we want to hire you. But it's like, well, what about the skills I have or the experience I have of working with kids with special needs? And it gets very frustrating.
For sure. God bless you, man. Happy to sign your hat. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Next question. And disagreements, guys, can cut in line if you need, and we can start facilitating that. Michaela can work. Yes.
Hey, Justin, make that your next person.
I think it's
LL, is that Eddie Bauer?
2, but it might be 3.
We both have Eddie Bauer.
It said till 2. He's got to get to ULI though. So.
Yeah, I met
So, I was gonna talk to you about, like, I'm a high school senior. I go to the high school, like, right over there down the street. I was gonna ask you, what do you think I should do to prepare going into college?
Great question. Thank you for that. Why do you want to go to college?
I feel like
just worn a red shirt.
Well, my parents are kind of making me, but at the same time.
Bad answer. Why do you? You're your own sovereign being with your own agency. Why do you want to go to college?
I feel like it'll just be a good start for me, and in the career choices that I want, because.
Fair enough. What are they?
So right now I'm kind of undecided in liberal arts and sciences. So I don't know exactly what I want to do, but you don't.
But just lock in. You
Thank you. Yeah, my bad. So I kind of want to see what I'm going to do because you don't have to declare until your sophomore or junior year at most schools. So
I want you to think deeply about whether you should go to college or not. I didn't go to college and it worked out fine for me. We have way too many people going to college in this country, if I may speak so candidly. In preparation, learn as much as you can. I wish when I was 15, 16, or 17, I spent even more time reading books, trying to dive deep into big ideas. You can take Hillsdale online courses at charlieforhillsdale.com. That's charlieforhillsdale.com. You guys can take them free of charge. So yeah, make learning a top priority.
So I was also going to ask, like, what do you have to say to all the students out here that are here supporting you, that are in college right now, that have, like, a bunch of student loans? What are you going to say to them?
I mean, yeah, look, some of them are kind of trapped. I'll say try to graduate as quickly as you can and then try to use what you have and your experiences here. At best, college can be a great connective tool to find people in your industry. So at the very least, if you're here, find people that are able to connect and you're able to find internships or better profession, better paying job because of it.
Has your stance changed on college?
No.
No, it hasn't. It's always been this way?
I have a book called The College Scam. I think I saw it right here. Someone had it over here. Right there. There's the book, The College Scam. Yeah.
So why do you think college is a scam?
Well, okay, happy to explain that. The national graduation rate, 41% of people that go to college do not graduate. And then half of the people in this audience that are in college, if they get a job, will end up getting a job that doesn't require a college degree. Basically rendering their experience here completely useless.
I wouldn't say it's completely useless. Like, for example, I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, but my mom, she has an English degree, and she doesn't really do stuff related to English. She's the director of digital analytics at State Farm, and what she kind of does is she just, like, analyzes the data trends and kind of makes decisions from there. And she uses her English degree, like, every day to write emails to help her do all this kind of stuff with good language. Hey.
No, it's fine. It's good. I mean, look, let me just say one other thing. And you're a high schooler. Thank you for coming up here. You deserve credit for that. It's not easy. So, artificial intelligence is going to displace 99% of all the jobs you're getting degrees for. Most of the reasons why you're in school, your jobs will not exist. We're going to have to retrain the entire country to use AI and to find other jobs. And writing emails, Grok can do that. ChatGPT can do that pretty well.
That didn't work so well for me. I don't think that would work well for me if I decided that one day I wanted to use ChatGPT on like one of my AP comparative government essays or something.
It actually works for a lot of people in this audience. I mean, you'd be surprised, right, guys? I'm not even endorsing it. I'm saying college has become a scam where it's like who can use AI the quickest and the best. And like you're not actually learning the way you used to. And by the way, the point also is that when you graduate, the jobs will not exist because they're going to have artificial intelligence doing these jobs for you.
I would argue that they aren't going to have artificial intelligence, and that's actually kind of a threat because what if
it already exists? I'm not trying to like big time you, but like millions of people are going to lose their jobs in the next year.
So heart surgeons are going to lose their jobs to AI?
Yeah, 100%. That's not. You can laugh. Do you know that? So, for example, in healthcare, there's an entire profession of cardiologists, for example, that read heart scans. They're going completely out of it. AI does it quicker and more accurately, and they do it in seconds. It's facts, right? In fact, people are detecting heart arrhythmias, cardiac blockages, places they need to have stents in seconds, where otherwise would take weeks to get a cardiologist to look at it.
Where's your evidence for this?
I mean, look, man, it's pretty where's my evidence?
AI, that's right.
I mean, anyone around you will tell you it's true. I mean, you can just look it up on any multitude of examples.
Type in a credible example.
Type into any search engine of your choice, okay? AI detects tumor quicker than, human. And you will see that all across the country they're using AI, and they literally have no use anymore for people to read scans. They double check the work sometimes, but at like a 99% veracity it works. Finally, other paralegals. Paralegals are like a thing of the past. Paralegals used to be people that would write up briefs. ChatGPT can read a 3,000-page legal brief in 30 seconds and summarize it more crisply and better in better language than a human being can.
I'm pretty sure that's not all paralegals do, though.
Paralegals basically read and write, and ChatGPT does that better than a human being and quicker and more accurately. I'm not here to debate it with you. It's a fact. AI's taken over the world, and I don't think people are prepared for that. Thank you very much.
Can I get it?
Yeah, sure. Yes. If you guys disagree, go to the front of the line. Yep.
Yeah.
Bring him over
here. Okay. Hey, Charlie. I've been watching your videos for a long time. Been a big fan of yours. One thing I will say is that I have come out here not only because I turned conservative in about 2016 with Trump's first run. I've always also been a devout atheist, and I've been proud in my beliefs with that. I find the book, the Bible, to be a very fictitious book. I find that it has a lot of contradictions that are not squared away by anybody that finds it, that reads it. So I'm just want to know. One thing I want to get for you before we dive into that is how can we get more people of different faiths to come to the conservative movement instead of, because a lot of what I see of you is espousing on Christian virtues and to a lesser extent Jewish, but I think that there could be a lot more that we could do with ideas rather than the beliefs of religion.
Let's start with the idea of atheism, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'm going to go through all of the arguments for God's existence.
Okay.
I want you to tell me if you've heard them before or if they are compelling.
Okay.
First is what's called the ontological argument for God, which ontos comes from the Greek. It's the Greek word for being.
Sure.
So the highest conception of human beings, we can only conceptualize that which is real. And so the highest conception of our own, combined wisdom is God. I think this is the weakest argument for God, to be perfectly honest.
Right, I agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a proof that an ontological view of God. The second of which is called the cosmological view of God, coming from the Greek word cosmos, which means all-encompassing creation. If you look around with creation, there are 15 fine-tuned measurements that if anyone went off by a micron, our entire existence would not exist. The tilt of the Earth, our proximity to the sun, our configuration of oxygen to carbon dioxide. In fact, we can look at the probability of our existence. It's 1 in multiple trillions that all of this would come together at an exact time, let alone consciousness, let alone human beings, let alone our DNA.
Sure, I want to counter that with the fact that there are millions upon millions of galaxies with millions upon millions of their own stars, with millions and millions of their own planets. If we did, I don't think that if this Earth was not in this exact space as it is now. I think that is also not compelling because if we would have found existence on in another location in the universe if it was not just in this
I don't have enough faith to believe that, but let me continue onwards. Then there is what's called the teleological argument for God. That comes from the Greek word telos, which means, we get the word telescope, it means goal, destination, or purpose. This here goes to an argument that for every cause, for every effect, there must be a cause. So, for example, we can agree that space, time, and matter exist. We agree.
Yes.
Therefore, definitionally, something that is outside of space, time, and matter must have made space, time, and matter exist.
Not necessarily. There
against the laws of reason.
Not because there could always be a universe that existed before our Big Bang. It's not. We could have existed with space, but no matter in a very tiny point. That's what basically the Big Bang was. So I don't see how that proves, how that disproves atheism. And it's more. Atheism is more of a. I don't believe God exists. Why is this compelling?
Well, I'm going to go through two more proofs of God, and then we'll finish. There's what's called proof of time, which is important. Thanks to Albert Einstein, we know that time is actually a real thing that can be traversed with enough speed. And in order for time to exist, something timeless must have created it. Finally, there's something called the axiological view of God. I don't know if you know this one. Axios comes from the word, the Greek word judgment. Axios and judgment mean the same thing, which basically means that every human being has some form of right and wrong embedded in us. For example, when the Nuremberg trials were happening, the Nazis were not able to say, well, it was just the laws of the land. They actually appealed to a higher power, saying that every one of us had some good or evil within us.
Okay, so that does. I mean, that kind of disproves, right? I mean, if the Nazis were able to point to something outside of themselves and say, hey, this is the reason why we're doing this.
They didn't. No, the point is the Nazis didn't. Is that the people doing the trial did, meaning the Nazis were not able to excuse that. So out of all those proofs of God, what if any of them are persuasive to you? None. Okay. So then, what? If you look at a human being and you look at the improbability of our, how we are put together, do you believe that we are largely an accident of multi-billions of years of evolution?
Yes. How do we know? How do we not know that there's? How do we know that there isn't something that's identical to us on another, planet somewhere that we haven't encountered yet? It's just a skeptic in me that's thinking that way. That says, hey, maybe there's something out there that we haven't contacted yet that is in another galaxy or another planet or something that we just don't know.
Or maybe there isn't.
Okay.
So the improbability, though, of our existence and the Earth and oxygen and carbon and nitrogen and all of it together, you don't marvel at a human being being able to heal itself when it's cut or grow to a...
No, because we're not the only beings on Earth that can do that. There's a lot of people.
Well, we are the only ones that can reason.
Okay.
Do you marvel at our capacity to reason? Even the ability for mammals or reptiles to reproduce life. You don't see any intelligent design behind it.
None.
You just see it as
it's a process of natural selection and evolution over millions of years.
So we both have faith. I would argue you have a lot more faith than I do. You have a lot more blind faith to believe that everything around you, love, joy, peace, sadness, is all just a construct of neurons firing in your brain.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So do you believe that we are just limited to our five senses?
No, I think even scientists said that there could be like a sixth sense of...
What is that sixth sense?
So, like a sixth sense that can be aware of what's surrounding the body. That, like, I can know that there's another person next to me, or there's a microphone in front of me. I can sense it. I don't need to have my eyes... Well, I could be blind and I could still know that was there. I mean, I didn't need... I use more than five senses. Scientists told us that for decades, that we have...
What do you think happens when you die?
Nothing. Our electronic impulses just stop firing and
let me ask you the most important question. Okay. Do you hope you're wrong?
Not really. Where's Chris? No, I mean, I've got this.
So you don't desire an afterlife?
I consider this life, as an atheist, the more compelling than even when I was younger and when I was religious, because I think that this is the only life we have. We need to do with it what we can, the best that we can do it, and it's like I said, it's just the one chance we got. We don't have an afterlife. We don't have anything after that. So our goal is to become the best people that we can possibly be.
Okay, I will be stunned. So you hope that there's no eternal judgment and you never see your loved ones after you die?
No, not really.
I hope you all internalize just how dark that is, how sad that is. And it's fine, I'm not trying to criticize you. We as Christians have hope that we are going to see our loved ones again, and that we will be in heaven, and that we will be in perfect peace, and that this is not it. In fact, there's something even better awaiting us. So I hope one day that you do seek to find something higher and better, that this is not all for us in our existence. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh boy, this one's gonna be good.
Hi, I have to film this, so can I give my friend my phone after I ask? Okay, thank you. So with the rise of like red pill content creators, such as like men like Nick Fuentes or Andrew Tate. Yeah. Well, what is your opinion on Gen Z men idolizing these influencers and influencers like them? And as yourself are a conservative influencer in some way, do you think that they're like them and their followers are justified in what I would say extreme beliefs? Because you know they can tend to skew to an extremity. But do you think that they are justified, and even then with those beliefs, do you think that in a way they are tainting other people's view of the conservative community?
It's a good question. Look, I have a great heart for young men that have grown up in a toxically feminine society that has told them that it's a problem that they exist and that they don't understand anything about male human development. They don't understand anything about what a 13, 14, or 15-year-old boy needs, how they grow, how they're largely immature and hyper-physical, and they know nothing about actually how to turn boys into men. The large, like, basically the pedagogical monopoly, which means just pedagogy, educational monopoly, has no idea how to turn boys into men. To your question, I mean, we actually have a larger following base versus, the two names you mentioned. Here's my advice. I always try to point to the scriptures as to the best way to turn boys into men. And the best way to turn boys into men, very simply, is to restrain your impulses, do something adventurous, confront evil, stand up for those that can't stand up for themselves, and save yourself unto marriage and find one sexual partner for your life. That's where I lose a lot of people. And in fact, I believe marriage is a moral good for yourself and for society. I think we engage way too much in the flesh. We drink too much. We do too many drugs. We have hookup culture. We watch too much pornography. It's always about instant gratification. Where we as men, we enjoy the difficult and the adventurous, but it should be for noble and righteous purposes. And so, insofar as someone's advocating for that, I'll agree with it. Otherwise, I would say that not so much.
One more. Okay. So other than like your advice to young men, what do you think that us as a society could do to kind of steer young boys and Gen Z men to like a better path than this like very indulgent lifestyle of like constantly getting girls and like using women for...
Well, and can I just interrupt you for a second? It goes both ways. So on the other side, radical feminism tells girls to get as many sexual partners as you can, to go sow your oats. And basically what the feminists have done is like every 19-year-old boy's dream. Is that every girl is easy and accessible, and you don't have to work to go get sex. In the way it should be, a boy should have to become a very mature, very sophisticated person to get to the point of sex. So the boy doesn't have to grow up to get what he wants anymore. And so a lot of this is on women who have basically become pseudo OnlyFans models, going around selling themselves for basically for no price whatsoever, because free sex will liberate you. Let me say this as as gently as I can. Free sex drives young women insane. The more sexual partners a young woman has in college, the more likely she is to be clinically depressed, on antidepressants, because sex for men is totally different than sex for women. Sex for women is emotional attachment, it is relational, it is not transactional, and is not purely physical. For whatever reason, the way men were designed and wired, sex, they could have sex with 9 people over 2 weeks and just like, okay, whatever, like it's not that big of a deal. It's completely different for young women. And so we have told young women through this hyper-feminist model, go act like men, and a lot of people end up severely depressed. The final thing I'll say is this, is that education is incredibly feminine in its approach and also in its staffing. 75% of teachers before 8th grade are women. Nothing against women teachers, but this is a truism of life. Young men don't like taking orders from women. I'm sorry, it's just a fact of life. Young men need strong men to say, stop it, be better. And they will sit down and shut up when a man tells them. And so, and especially one that has their act together. So all that to say, we need more strong biblical men that have their act together to actually get involved in young men's lives. And women, for the love of everything holy and good, stop giving your body away to every man that wants it and save yourself for marriage. You are the supply of the problem. So it's both sides. If women were far more careful and pious with their sexual choices, men would follow. If all of a sudden the supply side of this equation would be like, actually, sorry, you have to date me seriously and get married to have sex with me. All of a sudden men would be like, well, I better get my act together. I better get a job. Men will react to the signal of sex quicker than women will. Because young men, especially 19, 20 years old, that's all they think about all day, sports and sex, what they think about all day long. And for young women, they're like, what do you mean? Like, there's no way. Like, no, honestly, this is a hilarious true study. Harvard University put 20 men in a room alone, no phones, no TV, no newspapers. They stared at a wall. They put 20 women in a room. They asked the men, what did you think about? I think about sports and sex the entire time. Okay. They asked women, what did you think about? They said, we were replaying conversations that we had earlier in the last couple of days. It is very rare that a man will ever repay a conversation in the history. Like, we're very forward thinking, and finally, we are very macro. Men are macro thinkers, women are micro thinkers. That is why if you sit down with somebody on campus, that is a woman, she's probably talking about the grades in her class, her relationships, her friends, or things that people said to her. You sit down to a man on campus, he's talking about his crypto wallet, whether or not his DraftKings account is in the surplus or in a deficit, and whether or not Donald Trump is going to take Greenland. The most macro thing. We are wired differently, and it's time for our educational system. Next. Thank you so much.
Also, can I get a hat?
Yes, you can. Thank you. Yes, next question.
Go up to the mic.
This is always the issue. I throw out the hats, and then they get thrown back at me to sign them. So we got to figure this. I got to sign them ahead of time. Yes, sir.
How you doing, Charlie? Everybody good? That's good. Okay, I got my phone out. That's cool for you? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna quote you real quick. You said, if I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Are you gonna do that?
Yeah, I mean that is correct. Yeah,
that's correct. Okay, so can we both agree?
What was the context of what I said, though?
What was the context? I don't even want to get into DEI because your opinion on DEI, it doesn't really help it in this case. So, if the context between what you brought up was that you believe that
because they were being hired because they were black.
Okay, so can we both agree that every single pilot, whether black, white, whoever, has to go through FAA certification?
No, actually,
we can't.
New lawsuit shows that black pilots and female pilots have the standards being relaxed.
No, sir. Can we agree at the time of February 29th or 2023 when you said it at the time? No.
No, actually, I said it. That's why you don't know the context. Is that new lawsuits were showing that they were relaxing the standards for air traffic control and pilots in order to meet the standards.
The context of that was diversity, equity, and inclusion. What does that have to do with hiring?
Everything. DEI definitionally is that we will hire more of a race versus a different race. So, for example, United Airlines said that they want 50% of their new pilots to either be women or black. Okay. Currently, just so you understand, it's like 8%. So they want to go from 8% to 50%. Okay. And every time DEI is implemented, every single time, the lowering of standards occurs. Every single time.
Lowering of standards?
Correct. So can I prove it to you? We both want excellence, right?
Okay.
If you and I said, hey, we want 50% of the new people going into the NBA are white.
Okay.
Would the NBA drop in its standard?
Yeah.
You didn't watch basketball.
The National Basketball League?
No, if we said 50%, if we say by
50% of the NBA dropped, and it was only white.
No, I
You're
said
the standards go down.
I'm not hearing what I'm saying. If 50% of all new people going in the NBA were white, by decree, would the quality of play of the NBA decrease?
Would the quality of play in the NBA decrease?
Yeah.
No, if they're the same standard of basketball.
Hold on, let's talk realistic.
Name the top 5 all time.
75% of the NBA is black. 75%.
So does that mean white players are less better, or does that mean
whites are not?
Jordan, LeBron, Shaq, Kobe.
We got some big.
We got Larry Bird.
We got some big exceptions.
Larry Bird and half
very
of
proud
Steph
of Larry
Curry.
Bird. Okay, and we're very proud of Luka and Nikola. However, the point being,
the few, the pro.
let's implement DEI in the NBA. If all of a sudden 50% of all the players have to be white, which means they have to say no to otherwise good black players.
You know there was a time where this happened, right?
Well, no, of course, and the league wasn't as good. That's the point.
No, you understand that there was a time where the exclusion of African American players was in the NBA, right?
No, for sure. I acknowledge that, and the league got better as blacks were allowed in.
Did it get better, or did we just integrate ourselves in?
Well, hold on, no, but wait,
the players in the league averages around that time weren't worse. We just got better.
Hold on. Do you actually think that? Why is it that 75% of the NBA is black?
Right now?
Yeah.
They're better.
I mean, well, there was a certain point around 1965
why
where
is
a
it,
law
answer the
passed
question.
where we can actually...
Why is it that 75% of the NBA is black?
Because we integrated into the league.
No, because the best players are allowed to play in the NBA.
Well, actually, the best players in the NBA are European born.
Well,
they're not even African American.
I mean, a couple of them are. As I said, we're very proud.
We're very integrated within sports, but what does that prove?
That proves that the NBA is not built on DEI, it's built on excellence.
The NBA isn't proof. So when you mention DEI, you're now saying that it's...
You obviously don't know what DEI is. DEI...
I know what DEI is. You're not giving me a proper explanation.
DEI is racial quotas.
Racial quotas?
Yes. You've never heard of DEI before. So, do you know what a racial quota is? You have to have a certain amount of a certain race. That is what United Airlines did. We must get to 50% of our pilots to be black or women. Therefore, if the NBA said 50% of our players have to be white, I guarantee you, we could try to get as many Serbs and Croats as possible. Yeah. It's not going to make the NBA the best league. Instead, the NBA has a policy of which the NBA and the FAA and the United Airlines should have the same policy. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, it matters how good you are at what you do.
Amen!
So what you're saying is... everybody's good? So what you're saying is the NBA...
It's a great example
No, it's a bad example. Because in the example that I gave you, I said when you say a black or female pilot might be less qualified because of DEI, what you're implying is that they didn't earn their spot.
Correct, they didn't, because that's what DEI does.
That's what you're implying?
Because you're there because of the quota, not because of excellence.
Does DEI give you the opportunity because of who you are, or does it open up access?
No, it gives it because of literally the color of your skin.
Charlie, you are quoted by saying that... Guys,
everyone knows the quote because it's true. When you hire somebody, it's true because they're there not because of their merit, but because of a racial quota. Why is it that only 8% of pilots right now for United Airlines are black or female?
It's actually 3%.
Oh, that proves my point even more.
It doesn't. Guys, DEI is the reason why they're not in these positions. But it's because they're... Listen.
You don't even know what you're saying, bro.
You are making no sense at all.
Yeah, you're done.
That's cool.
Next question.
Explain to me what a racial quota is.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is the reason as to why accesses are now open to certain races.
Hold on. Can a black person not become a pilot before DEI?
What are you saying? Was it equal opportunity or was it equal access?
But
was it equal opportunity? Was it equal access?
It's equal. Both.
It's both.
Yes.
It's equal opportunity and it's equal. I could not go to college in 1964 with a free ride, free paid tuition, but you could, Charlie. Are y'all just forgetting that the last 50 years?
Hold on. This is
crazy.
How did that?
Now you get scholarships for it.
And wait, do you have a free ride right now?
Do I have a free ride right now?
Yeah.
I go to school.
Who pays your tuition?
Who pays my tuition?
Yeah.
I don't want to share that one.
You just said you had a free ride.
I said in 1964.
No. So it's 2025. Let's stay focused on today.
2025. Even with equal opportunity and
access. That's what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. It opened up access for people like me to get these opportunities.
So someone has to pay for your college. Who's paying for it?
Who says someone has to pay for my college?
Yeah. So taxpayers are paying for your
college.
Deposit the money into the bank right now.
Show
me your bank account.
It's more than yours! Bigger than yours! More than yours!
This is a publicly funded institution.
But the publicly funded institution, we are one of the, it's top three. ISU, University of Illinois Champaign, and the University of Illinois Chicago. 3 schools, universities that are getting funded more than other universities in Chicago. So yes, we do get funded more. Yes, I'm well more access to get a free ride. But what if I went to Chicago State University? Would I get a free ride then?
I wouldn't recommend anyone goes to Chicago State.
Why not?
It's a terrible school.
Well, Charlie, are they funded?
I don't know the specifics. You don't know the specifics. It's not exactly a reputation of a great school.
I can tell you, Illinois State.
It is not a funding
Illinois
issue.
State gets 92% of funding in the state of Illinois for universities, for public universities. Chicago State gets basically none, virtually none. So what you're saying is, it was opened up accesses. What I'm presenting to you is that the access that I was allowed.
Okay, so what do you mean by access? What
do I mean by access?
How do black people not have access to a better life in America? What's preventing them?
What's preventing black people from having a better life in America?
Yes. What's preventing them?
Police, the government.
Hold on, no. Police. How many unarmed black men die? How many unarmed black men die from the hands of police every year? Nationally.
Are you serious?
How many?
Charlie Kirk, we're talking about something.
How many? No, you just said police. How many unarmed black men die at the hands of police every year?
Did I say that is the reason?
You just said police.
Policing is an issue.
You're right. We don't have enough police on the streets of black neighborhoods.
The police department is way more funded than our normal.
What is the #1 cause of black death in Chicago?
Are you serious?
Black on
Other blacks killing blacks.
Black on black crime.
Yes. No, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. What's the #1 cause of death of blacks in Chicago?
Where's the substantial evidence?
Where's the evidence? The Chicago Police Department. Actually, you guys can look up. It's a website. It's a website called HeyJackass.com. Go to Go to the website.
Pull it up yourself.
Go to the website. It's called HeyJackass.com. It's real-time Chicago crime statistics. It's called HeyJackass.com. It shows it by race of how many blacks are killed.
Can we clearly say that these are facts? Yes, y'all believe it.
So no, there it is right there. HeyJackass.com. Hey, right there.
Charlie.
By the way,
that's honestly right.
That has a direct live crime feed to the Chicago Police Department.
HeyJackass.com is not.
Yes, it's right there. It's the crime stats, man. No,
I got it.
Tell me.
Crime stats are you showing me? You're pulling up a site called HeyJackass.
Yes, exactly, because you won't read it. It's right there, dude. It's the real-time vetted crime.
What does it say?
It says right there.
Where does it say?
Scroll down. It shows by race actually there.
Are you just saying that it's people being killed?
Tell me. Right there, by race. Right there. Boom.
Where are you seeing that at?
On the website. But tell me, who is killing the blacks in Chicago? Is it a bunch of kids from Hinsdale? Who's killing the blacks from Chicago? A bunch of kids from Highland Park?
2% Hispanic. That's very, very, very broad. Where are those locations at?
Where
are those locations at? You're saying East Garfield? You've never been to East Garfield in your life.
Yes, I went once and I'll never return.
You're from East Garfield? You've never been to East Garfield in your life.
Tell me very clearly. Who is killing the blacks in Chicago? Who is killing them?
Of 1,000 African Americans, you're taking statistics from communities.
Who is killing? No, I want to have a conversation with you.
What did you expect?
Who is killing them?
Who is killing African Americans?
Yes.
People are killing people.
No. What race is killing them?
Why are y'all trying to act like African Americans are just solely murdered? People are killing people.
No. What race is killing? Is it white people killing blacks or blacks killing blacks?
People are killing people, Charlie.
Okay, but hold on. What race is killing the other race?
What race is killing what race more? That does not matter.
It does matter because it's a black-on-black problem.
It's a
problem of black-on-black violence.
Black problem, or is it a crime problem?
It's a black-on-black problem that is a crime problem. Because I'll tell you what, if it was a bunch of kids from Deerfield coming in with guns, it would be a white problem. But somehow, if it was a black-on-black problem, it's a crime problem. It's systemic injustice. That the police is not enough funding.
What you're saying is, Charlie, you're forgetting that these locations that you're bringing up are secluded by these races. So these races might have an easier time with
policing, and yeah, they're gonna have nearly response time of 2 seconds.
Wait, it's the police's fault that so many blacks are killing other blacks?
Who just said that?
You did.
I said that?
Yes. No, but no, I want you to tell me, why is it that black Americans are 13% of the population, yet they commit 55% of the murders?
Where can you show me that?
Again, it's FBI statistics, it's well known.
Statistics, where can you show me that at?
It is,
can you give
ask ChatGPT, ask Grok.
Why would I ask ChatGPT when ChatGPT is shown? Prove it.
Prove it. Again, anyone near you can show you the stats, right? It's right there. Look.
Oh, shit!
Man,
let's read it. 70% of offenders were African American. Hey guys, that's why you keep reading. Hey, you read more. You read a little bit more. Let's keep reading. Keep reading.
Oh, shit!
So this comes from...
Get off the mic, dude! You're cut! You're done! Go home!
This is the
Go
year
back home, my guy!
2021.
It hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse, just so you know.
It hasn't gotten... Can you show me right now?
Watch the news!
Why?
Man, I'm just gonna try to. You gotta ask me. So you got to admit, without the numbers, you do admit that blacks are the most violent portion of American society, right?
No.
I mean, the numbers. I mean, it's not even close.
Did you say we're the most violent?
Yes, most murders, most rapes, most arsons, most carjackings, most thefts. It's not even close.
Oh my God, Charlie, where are any of your facts to prove these hateful terms? Shit, no, y'all are pulling up something that is not.
It is bipartisan.
So just because she shows me a statistic from 73% of Chicago, that means every single African American, the 13% in the entire country.
No, I said the most violent.
Because
not every black is violent, but it's the most violent by far. Yes, you are.
Just said
blacks are by far the most violent racial group in America, and it's not even close. I want you to tell me why.
What I want to debate with you.
No, I want you to tell me why. I'm super curious. Why is it that blacks are so violent per the percentage they are in the country? Why is that?
Charlie, I believe every race is violent.
No, actually, they're not. Actually, whites and Asians are way less violent than blacks. Way less.
Whites are less violent?
It's not even close, actually.
It's not even close?
Yes, whites are way less likely to go shoot up a schoolyard.
How many school shootings have there been since this year has started?
I mean, like a couple, but again, statistically, a white individual is far less likely.
You want to bring up race, and our issue with that is, what race do they come from?
No, but again, you have to look at the macro data. More, just so you kid.
I brought up race?
Yes. But just to be clear, more kids in America die in crossfire gang shootings than in school shootings. Just so we are clear.
What are your statistics on that?
Right there.
He's showing me a statistic from Cook County, Illinois, and then you're now saying all across America.
Well,
look
again,
fucking anywhere, buddy.
With incompetence.
Check the local news.
Charlie, for the sake of myself, I really do appreciate the ability to debate with you, man.
I want you to think about what I asked you.
Dan Smith and Robin, you're not local CBS.
Thank you. But if it's a 9-year-old, they have no business learning about in-depth sexual activity between anybody.
Yeah, and what is your opinion on like LGBTQ books that involve that?
No place in public education.
Not in elementary school. Do you think that kind of derails the freedom of speech? Do you think that kind of...
Potentially, I do think that's a good question. What we have found is that these books tend to be a lot more about grooming a certain group of people towards a, let's just say LGBT whatever lifestyle than not. Freedom of speech contention is interesting, but we now know, let's just take the transgenderism thing. Transgenderism is a social contagion. It is a fact. Meaning people are it's like a 10,000% increase in the last 5 years of people that self-identify as transgenderism. That means that it's an external exposure that has caused them to do that.
So you believe that like the exposure to these books is what is causing children to
Not necessarily, potentially. I mean, I will also just say it more pragmatically. I went to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in this state, and also high school. We never had a single discussion about gay this or gay that And then when kids actually came out as gay, no one was bullied. It was respectful. We didn't need like all this different, curriculum. So I don't even know why it needs to exist. I think it becomes, at least I would know this, and I could be wrong. If we had literature that had these elements as a 6th or 7th grader, it would have been a major distraction away from core competencies of learning.
Okay, so do you believe in collegiate book banning at all, or do you think we should have free access to research for everyone?
I don't think CRT should be taught. I mean, what's taught and access are two different things.
Yeah.
But as an adult, you should be able to have access to whatever you see fit.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you so much. Can you sign it back?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Next question. Disagreements, guys. Yeah.
H2O. Charlie, can you take my beer
Yeah, that's for her, not you.
Charlie,
Yeah,
can you take
go
my
ahead.
How are you today? How are you today? Alright, so recently Trump has imposed like aggressive reciprocal tariffs on a lot of other nations. And so, I mean, I'm pretty conservative, but I have some doubts and I feel like they're a little aggressive. So how can I, as a conservative, trust Trump's economic plan throughout the long term, even though they may be raising prices and possibly cause other issues?
It's a great question. First of all, the market's back up today, which is good. And I say that the market's not everything, but it's been down the last couple of days, which is a real thing. Look, tariffs are a huge risk. They're a huge risk. I think they're one worth having. If I were to predict, I can't see the future, I think Trump is going to start cutting really good non-tariff deals with Japan, with South Korea, with Canada, Mexico, and I think he's going to start marching and turning the entire world against China. And that I completely support. If there is one trade war that needs to happen right now, it is the decoupling of us importing so much stuff from the Chinese Communist Party. And that might be a little bit clumsy. People might pay a little bit more. I don't know how that's going to work politically, but we cannot be a nation and be subservient to the Chinese Communist Party making critical manufacturing, goods, vitamin C, so on and so forth.
Do you think that prices will eventually go down? How do you think that these tariffs will affect?
It's a great question. So actually, here's the good news. Prices are going to go down in the short term because the price of oil is plummeting right now, which is great, which means that you guys will pay less at the pump. Oil went from $70 to now $53 a barrel in the last couple of days, which is amazing. You guys will see that very soon. Yeah. But I don't want to lie to people. Prices might go up in certain sectors. And I don't love that. I think long term they will go down. And just so everyone's clear, you guys are about to get no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. You guys are going to get a massive tax cut this year, which I think will make the tariffs go over a little bit easier.
And I've also heard I've heard things on social media saying that these tariffs will actually not bring higher quality jobs into the U.S. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I disagree. There's a lot of guessing. So I'm not going to spend my time here guessing because we are embarking on the largest tariff experiment of the modern economic order. I think it's going to work. And if it doesn't work, I know President Trump will pivot out of it. But more importantly, people voted for it. And I think there's something even more disturbing when people say they're going to do something and they don't do it. People said, Trump, please bring back manufacturing. Please bring up our wages. And you've got to give him enormous credit for the courage to do that, even when the market goes down, even when people are going after him. I think that's something that is definitely worthy of notice, for sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, wait, I have my next question.
Really quick, because we got a long line.
Oh, sorry, can I make it really quick?
Okay.
This is a really random question, but was Doge responsible for cutting funding to the National Weather Service?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
They've cut a lot, so I'd have to, yeah. Okay.
Okay, and do you think that is not slightly, in the slightest bit problematic because they've been having employee issues with them. They've been struggling to issue tornado warnings in times of severe weather outbreaks, and they've also not been able to release as many weather balloon soundings, which provide important upper air data to models that help us provide better forecasts.
Maybe, I don't know about it, but I mean, look, they cut a lot. Sometimes when you cut too fast, you have to, take a step back. I would prefer a incoming administration that cuts first and asks questions later and then fixes problems if they find stuff they cut that otherwise might not have been necessary.
Am I out of time or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Next question. Great.
All right. My question to you is aimed at Trump's pro-life perspective on the abortion issue, and that is, why do you believe in pro-life policies and like, the pro-life movement, but only up until the point of birth? Why does pro-life not continue to extend past birth into the child's life and supporting free school lunches and extended maternal leave and while adding the SNAP benefits to help reduce the number of children in poverty? And why do you support pro-life only until the child is born?
Everything we support is pro-life. That's why we want more police on the streets so that crime goes down. We also want a border to make sure that when that kid grows up, they're actually part of a country. We want tax cuts so that those families can actually feed their kids. To those elements, though, I think there's something disturbing when we look to the government to feed our kids. Now, if necessary in times that, to feed kids, we should step in. But is government really the first step to try to make sure a kid has a meal?
But is that not
and just
about verbatim quotes from those from the Bible and Jesus that you're always talking about?
Yes, well, hold on.
The hungry, clothe the poor,
that's a third and fourth important point.
Yeah.
That's where I believe Christian charities and churches should step up and feed and to clothe and to be a helping hand, not government. In fact, we used to be a country that we had a lot more private charities going and helping people in need. In fact, I would make a contention, if the government cut all of its social welfare, every church would step up to make sure that no kid went hungry in this country and that no kid would die of starvation. We are a very generous people. What we have found in Europe, when the government grows to such an extent, private charity basically goes under. Also, I want to make sure it's clear, child starvation is not an issue in this country. 5 to 10% of kids experience what they call food insecurity. That's like a very opaque term, but 50% of our children are obese or overweight. Yeah. We do not have a child starvation issue. We have a child obesity problem. We're feeding our kids too much of the bad food, not too little of, food that they need.
Yeah.
Finally, so
those two issues do go hand in hand because lower income families are not able to afford.
See, that's actually not true.
Higher nutrition or the more nutritious, healthier foods that
they make a conscious choice to buy bad stuff. Study after study shows
bad stuff is cheaper and they can get more food that way. They can't afford to eat fancy local organic Caesar salads from Whole Foods. They can afford to eat a sandwich off the dollar menu because they only have like $2.
So again, study after study shows that that's actually not true, that lower income families actually prefer the worst food, and they've actually grown largely addicted to it. They become very glucose dependent. But anyway, to answer your question, we as pro-lifers, every public policy position we hold is pro-life. I'll give you another example. We want to end the Russian-Ukrainian war so that the sons and daughters of this nation don't get drafted into World War III against Russia. So everything we believe is through a pro-life prism.
Okay. In that case, to that end, it's not so much of an opinion, but there are people in this country who die every winter, die of exposure because they are homeless and shelters don't have enough room or capacity, and they haven't anywhere warm to sleep, and they die of exposure. So with that in mind, would you support increased funding for homeless shelters in the country?
No. Homeless shelters are not the issue. When homeless die on the streets of Chicago, it's because they do not want to go inside. They're told repeatedly by police and other organizations. There are churches that will put them in, gymnasiums that will put them in, but they decide to stay on the streets. Funding is not the problem of homelessness. Drug usage, mental issues, and also just a overly liberated view of who actually gets to live on the streets is the issue. Thank you very much. I got to get to the next question. Thank you.
Before I start, my dad's your biggest fan. I was wondering if I could get a signed hat for him. And then also, Democratic primaries. I'm a big sports guy, so I'm excited for it this year because Stephen A. Smith's probably going to be running. And I like...
It won't start for a couple of years, but yes.
No, but out of all the people you can see running, like ASC, Newsom, even JB Pritzker, who would you pick to, you know, win the primaries?
I would love JB Pritzker to be the nominee, I'll tell you what.
Well, I would be a big fan of JB Pritzker going, because I want to see Stephen A. Smith just make fun of him the whole time, kind of like Vivek Ramaswamy saying to Chris Christie, oh, you graduated from Golden State Corral or whatever he said. But I do think that if Stephen A. Smith were to win the primaries, and you put him up against a guy like J.D. Vance, I think Stephen A. Smith's going to, not to be mean, wipe the floor with him.
We'll see what happens. You might be right.
I'm just saying, I don't agree with a lot of his sports takes. I'm a big Richard Sherman guy, I love his sports takes. But I'm just telling you, this guy can talk about politics. He kind of isn't your conventional, you know. That's just my take. Thanks for the headline.
Thanks, man.
How's it going, Charles? How you doing? I've got a question for you on data science. You told a senior student earlier in high school that AI is going to take over millions of jobs in the coming future years.
It already is, yeah.
Some of them, yeah. But there is still critical fields that definitely won't have AI taking over anytime soon. Blue collar, zero threat for the most part. I mean, look at the
robotics is growing way quicker than you realize.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a master's in data science, but robotics isn't growing that fast. But
I've seen stuff, man.
I've also, believe me, I've seen stuff probably more than you have.
Well, so how many humans are working? That's funny. How many humans are working in the Tesla plants?
I mean, I don't know.
They're fully
I don't go and count them, but
no, but they're fully
I mean,
robotic.
there's been work lines that have been industrialized for years. I mean, look at Ford plants. How many people are working there? So I feel like there's still
Tesla, but yeah.
Okay. Well, there's still plenty of labor to be around. The jobs that are going to be cut are sort of like middle management jobs and also email sending jobs. Anything that's already been done with ChatGPT and LLMs. That's already, the impact has already been had. The tools that'll come, I mean, you said earlier with like doctors, that's a really poor example because it's more of a force multiplier than it is something that'll take jobs. It's assisting people in getting ratings, but there does still need to be a doctor there in the event that a decision needs to be made. So.
Yes, but I mean, just to use the example, a level down is someone who looks at scans. They're not necessary anymore, right?
I mean, you still need to have someone to look at
Of course,
results. I mean, you're not looking at scans, but you're looking at results.
Not every job will be taken, but like I said,
not even that many.
Yeah, I mean, I completely disagree.
You got to pare down the amount of jobs you think are going to be taken for sure.
Well, so how many people do you think are in mid-level management in this country?
I mean, a fair amount.
Yeah, it's like 70% of all the jobs.
I wouldn't say so.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, for example, let's just
probably get some stat. But.
Let's just take Brown University. I happen to know this because I was just doing a study on it. 4,000 employees, 1,000 are professors, 3,300 are mid-level management.
Okay.
That's I mean, across the board. And so, yeah, I mean, look, you might be right, you might not. I think AI is way more powerful than we give it credit for. I think it's advancing at a rate that is going to displace
diminished returns. Once you get to the final 10%, the last 10% is 90% of the.
I actually hope you're right.
I am. I'm telling you, man. Like I've done the research. I've worked in the field.
Okay, yeah. I mean, do you think AI will get to a place of singularity?
Absolutely not. And even if it does, it doesn't matter. I mean, are you familiar with set theory? Okay, so set theory is basically like there's a Venn diagram, right? So there's a Venn diagram of human intelligence, and AI is only capable of learning everything that humans already know. It needs our data to make good insights.
So that's again. So explain to me though, but once AI can do physics itself,
it can. Simulations.
I know, but it can get beyond human comprehension of physics.
I don't believe so, no, because it can only do things that we understand.
Again, you might be right. People like Elon and Altman disagree.
Okay. Well, I mean, they also have a financial interest.
No, again, I hope you're right. I hope you're
right. Right. So we want more jobs to stay.
No,
I'm telling you that it'd probably be in the best interest not to sow fear into coming generations that AI.
No, it's not. Okay, but the vast majority of people that are going to college are studying things that will be replaced. Again, the young man who came up here, what did he say? Well, my mom sends emails at State Farm.
Okay, I'd probably say that's a bad, you know.
I mean, that literally
regard. But for him, you don't know what did he say he was going to go to college for?
He said liberal arts.
Okay, well,
and science.
Yeah.
Liberal arts
art isn't
and
going anywhere anytime soon. Image generators are kind of iffy.
That's interesting. I don't know if I agree. Okay, thank you.
They're good.
I think they're fast.
Are you doing a Turning Point merch with AI now?
Not yet.
Okay, you gonna get there?
Oh you.
All right.
Smart, yeah, smart commentary. Thank you, man. I really hope you're right. I hope that the AI accelerationism isn't nearly as bullish as people think. Thank you.
Hi, my name's AJ, and the thing that I wanted to talk to you about is I found some of the things going on with the mass deportations a little concerning. Just most notably with the recent deportation of Amanda Abrego Garcia, because, and I want to make it clear that I don't think that we should have dangerous illegal immigrants in the country. Dangerous illegal immigrants absolutely should be deported out of the country, but the thing that concerns me is the lack of due process in the execution of it, especially with using something like the Alien Enemies Act, which in the past has been used to do things like put Japanese people in internment camps during World War II. So I think that, especially with how we saw the illegal deportation of Abrego Garcia by the Trump administration, that worries me that we're going to return to a slippery slope where something like those internment camps could happen again. And I think that that's a problem.
Got it. I hear you. I get this question a lot. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Garcia had a notice for deportation. You know that, right?
Well, actually,
he's had multiple court dates.
He actually had a protection from deportation that he was issued in 2019.
Which, of course, the government can release.
Those protections aren't granted if he's proven to be
not under the alien invasion. That's the key, right? So if you use the INA, those protections are lifted.
And that's exactly the issue I have.
Okay, fair enough. I don't think it's an issue, but it's fair enough.
Yeah, I think that being able to...
Give me that thing to sign so you guys can calm down. That's the worst picture I've ever seen. Wait till you see this thing. I've said 3 times.
Oh my god. That's so funny.
You see, everybody, this is why we need AI art. This is terrible. Grok would do a much better job. Final point, yeah.
I just think that having the ability to deport any person that we want without due process is extremely dangerous, because being able, not giving people due process, that's something that's enshrined in the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah, it's questionable, though, if they're an enemy invader. And that Supreme Court just decided with President Trump.
And not on that issue. The problem I have with the deportation of Abrego Garcia is because there was no proof of him being an MS-13 member. There's shaky at most witness that has no actual physical proof, and he was also wearing Bulls attire. And I don't see how that should qualify him to be stripped of his life and his liberty when he's here legally on a work visa.
Fair enough. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Yep. Thank you. Next point. Not even close. Do you want me to dance to that or something, or you waited in line to do that?
They let me cut lines. Fuck you.
Everybody, do not take hormones. Makes you do weird stuff. Do not do that. Hormone replacement therapy is very bad.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kirk. First off, thank you for coming to Illinois State. I had a couple questions in the spirit of being at Illinois State, school known for its education. You already touched on some things about the role of college moving forward in regards to AI, STEM. What about the role of an educator, someone who, like myself, who's trying to teach secondary education in high school?
Great question. I will do this. I have a very strong opinion of what education is. Are you studying to become a teacher?
History education teacher.
Awesome, good for you. Why don't you tell me what education is in its ideal and purpose?
So I think that's 2 things. A little bit closer? Yeah, so I think that's 2 things. In regards to traditional college, what it's normally been is the burden of proof. Whether you're taking a math class or you're taking a history class, it's all about providing evidence to support an answer, right? Identifying the difference between speculation and evidence. So there's the issue of burden of proof, which, again, that might change with AI and new technologies. In regards to a high school student, I myself, as a history teacher, the first question that I should ask myself is, am I someone worth learning from? I think we already have this pipeline of high school to college back to high school, and some really competent teachers are probably capable of teaching students with that amount of experience. I don't think that it's common, probably for everyone, and I enjoy having life experience outside of that. Outside of that, the role of educators to develop competent and capable students.
Great. I don't disagree with that. I think there's another thing to that. Do you think educators should be more like carpenters, meaning they're making students into something, or more like gardeners, letting kids grow?
The role of an apprentice, right?
So, not even just metaphorically, like, do you think that it's your job to turn a student into a specific thing, or to let kids grow into what they naturally are?
The latter.
Grow into what they naturally are.
The latter, and also support that growth where it can be supported.
Do you think it's your role as a teacher to point them towards a certain conclusion?
No, but I think it's my job to help them identify, burden of proof, right? Yeah. Identify the difference between...
That's where we disagree. I think, of course, it's the role of a teacher to point towards something.
Okay.
And that's fine. We're just going to disagree. We believe, as conservatives generally, that you have three truth claims: the good, the true, and the beautiful.
Yeah.
And you should try to point a child towards those things. You should try to read things that enrich and nourish their soul and their being towards an appreciation of the elevated things.
Yeah.
It's a difficult concept because none of that is probably talked about here at Illinois State, right? It's much more technical and mechanistic and a German view of education.
Exactly, it's normal, named after the German.
Yeah, exactly. Where we have a classical view of education, much more Athenian in nature.
Yeah.
Where we want
Alexander the Great to Aristotle, Aristotle to Plato. That apprentice-student
actually, it was Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, but that's fine.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's okay, yeah.
Look, I've already taken a couple L's this
sorry.
week.
Jeez, what happened?
Sparring. Smart heavyweight, but...
Awesome, good. And that's fine. It's not a matter of disagreement. We think the teacher should challenge and elevate the student towards the good. And that a teacher should be unafraid to tell a student, you're totally wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
And then and to try to get them to naturally get towards an end point of a certain conclusion. If, for example, if a teacher has, if they come to the conclusion, well, if my students believe whatever they want to believe at the end of this, it is what it is. We don't think
flaws in that. Yep.
We don't think the teacher's done their job.
100%.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Have a great day. All right. We will go another 20 or 30 here, and then I got to go to U of I. We don't like U of I, right? We don't like it.
Hi, Charlie. I just had a quick question for you. I see you debating people from the far left who support transitioning their kids and abortion, but I've never seen you debate anybody from the far right. Someone like Nick Fuentes, who is a conservative Catholic influencer, who has a large following on X and Rumble. And he has asked many times to debate you. And I just wanted to ask you point blank, why won't you debate Nick Fuentes?
Yeah, that's right. The answer is no. Thank you. Next question.
Hey Charlie, thanks for being here. First off, a lot of us, especially, I'm a Catholic, so I know you're a Protestant, but thank you for...
I have deep appreciation for Catholicism. I don't know if you know that. My wife is baptized Catholic.
Thanks for your contributions. We appreciate you spreading conservatism, especially around college campuses. We need it the most. We're the future. However, I noticed Ben Shapiro said that he remembers you asking for donations at the David Horowitz Freedom Center early on in your political career. Are these donors the reasons you won't talk about Israel's implication and negatively influencing our government when there are significant examples when we talk about Epstein, the Pollard affair, and America's involvement in the Middle East and the assassination of JFK?
Well, no, I mean, first of all, I think there's a lot of evidence to show that Epstein was either a Saudi agent or a Mossad agent.
Right.
So, I mean, no, it's not because of donors, I will say, or not say anything. In fact, I actively lost donors after October 7th because I didn't speak out enough. No, I don't know what your question is. As far as JFK,
why is it such a taboo topic, and it seems like we can't really talk about Israel's implication in these issues?
Well, which one?
I would specifically say JFK is super important.
Well, we don't know for certain Israel's role, right? We know in the JFK files, Mossad intelligence was listed a lot.
Right.
But there wasn't necessarily a smoking gun. I'm open to any theory.
Not necessarily a smoking gun, but when you look at what he wanted to do as a president, he was looking into their nuclear program with Ben David Gurion, and they actually lied to JFK, and they made a fake plant that they showed him, and JFK was pissed about that. So that's why he wanted to continue his research and his involvement in looking at that stuff. And it's also known that he wanted to register AIPAC as a foreign agent, not as our ally, but as a foreign agent. And it's common knowledge, if you look into it, that his brother also wanted to do the same thing. And they both were killed, unfortunately. Rest in peace to both of them. But why is it so taboo? Why can't we actually look into these things? It seems that if
we should look into any foreign.
And we should be honest instead of just calling people names and shutting it down right away. Because I think if you really look into it, Israel's not our greatest ally, in my opinion. I think they're one of our enemies, unfortunately. And I know that's a very deep conversation. That's a long thing. But we've sent over $20 billion to them since the start of 2025, and I think we just really need to focus on investing into our own country, and we need to. Well, first off, I disagree with Israel's position even in the Middle East. I don't think it's biblical. There's popes that have disagreed with their stance. They chose not to support the founder of Zionism, Theodor Herzl, and so why are we almost forced into supporting this when I think there's plenty of evidence on the other side? I just think it should be more of a conversation, and we need to respect both sides more. I think it's a little bit one-sided, especially in the media. And what is your opinion? I'll let you speak.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a Protestant, so I have a completely different view of Israel. We believe that Israel mentioned in the New Testament is not, we don't believe in replacement theology.
Do you believe Israel is the church, or do you believe it's an actual state?
I believe it's an actual state, as prophesied in the book of Daniel.
But Jesus calls Israel the church.
No, he never used the word church.
The church, Israel is the people of God. It's the people that are Christians. We are part of Israel.
No. So that's inferred in something Paul said. Where did Jesus say that?
Oh, I can't give a specific example. And maybe I'm wrong too.
He didn't say it. That's fine.
But Israel is the church. We are the church.
Okay, that's a theological interpretation of which we as Protestants don't hold.
Right.
I can't imagine you want to spend our time doing theological debates.
Not at all. I'm not ready for that.
However, I want you to understand, my perspective as an evangelical is very different. Right. We believe the nation of Israel was prophesied to be reconstituted after the destruction of the temple in, I think, AD 70, right? The temple's destroyed, and for 2,000 years Jews were scattered, and it says very clearly...
But that was because they disobeyed God, and he scattered them instead of holding together...
No, I know why it happened, right?
Okay.
But it says that I will bring you as disparate parts back into your promised land. So we believe that is a fulfillment of prophecy. Okay. Catholics don't hold that view, and that's fine.
Right.
But that is definitely a component of this. I want to just...
So what about specifically, like, what JFK wanted to do, and...
I don't know enough about it. You might be right. I'll have to look into it.
Do you think it is a little bit one-sided as far as they seem to get favor over when someone tries to criticize Israel?
Well, not necessarily.
And they're in...
Do you really think...
I'm not blaming all Jews. I'm not saying Jews are...
Unlike the other guy. I don't know if you saw him, but...
Yeah.
Just looking at this fair, I want you to be honest.
Right.
Do you think Israel gets favorable or unfavorable media treatment?
Very favorable, especially with the recent past. If you look at, there's a student that is getting their visa removed for supporting Palestine, and she's going to be deported, even though she's in here on a visa. Look it up.
But the media is totally against that. So I mean, like,
but Trump is supporting it.
No, but that's not. We're talking about the media. I'm asking you.
Trump is our president.
Time out. If the Jews control the media,
I didn't say that they control the media. I said that the influence is unfair.
Right, but
and we're not allowed to disagree with some of that stuff because it just seemed to get overpowered. Do you think there should be more fair discourse?
Of course you could disagree. If you're a foreigner on our land, it's a different standard. I don't want to get into that issue. You said Israel is an enemy. Define what an enemy is.
They don't favor us, and we give them unfair treatment. Epstein was a Mossad agent, and he was compromising our politicians to do things for Israel that Americans do not approve of.
We don't know for certain, but you might be right. The evidence suggests...
We know that he was Mossad.
No, we don't.
His father...
Okay, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, not his father, okay, you got to get your facts right, was Robert Maxwell, who owned a newspaper and was part of Israeli intelligence.
Right.
There's evidence to suggest it. But, and by the way, he very well just as equally could have been a Saudi agent, okay?
Just as easily?
Yeah, I mean, like, we don't know.
I don't know all the facts either.
So it could be Saudi or Israeli. I'm open to discuss this at any time, and I think you're coming after this with good faith. Here's where I don't like it. The guy earlier, you know, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. I think that's just dreadfully wrong. But as far as understanding, like, we should always put our country first. And I will ask, so you have
Christ first before our country.
I agree. So how do we know the Bible is true?
We know it's true because we trust the church fathers, we trust our faith, we trust...
Archaeologically, how do
a lot
we
of
know
archaeological evidence.
Where is that archaeological evidence?
Palestine. Over in Israel, Palestine, the Middle East, it's
I know,
all
but
over there.
Israel, right. yes,
Jordan as well.
Well, it's not very much in Jordan, but yeah, but it's in Israel.
That general area, yeah.
So, but we are able to prove that our Lord walked on water, able to prove that he rose from the dead. We're able to see the place this happened because of the reconstitution of the state of Israel. Israel is a preservation tool to make sure the veracity, authenticity of the scriptures remain. And you don't have to agree with this, and I understand. Israel represents the birth of civilization. It is a connective tissue to the West. And go ahead.
Why do we still consider them so largely to be the people of God? It's almost like we favor that term, which I don't think that there's enough backing and actual evidence and proof. Not that we need proof, but we just constantly say these terms. They're the people of God, they're the chosen ones. But the truth is that they rejected Jesus Christ, and that doesn't mean that, you know, a lot of us reject Jesus Christ, unfortunately. But as Christians, then we say they're the chosen ones, but we know that the Christians are now the chosen ones because we chose the real God.
Got it. So that's where we have a theological disagreement. We are told in the end of times that the keepers of the law, the Hebrews, will turn back to Christ.
Hopefully, amen.
Yes, and so we believe the Constitution of Israel is the beginning of hopefully that unfolding process.
But why is it when we criticize Israel, it's clear that the treatment is unfair, and unfortunately, especially on your side of politics, any conservative that usually criticizes these, they're not allowed to hold events like this. They're not allowed to receive funding. They lose their bank accounts. They all have to work mostly normal jobs because if you criticize that, you don't get to do stuff like this. Okay. So why? It's a specific thing. A specific country, specific people. It's not China. It's not Russia. You can criticize China and Russia pretty fairly, but if you criticize Israel,
I disagree.
You lose all that stuff. You can't disagree. It's just facts, though.
No,
You know a lot of people that have.
Hold on a second. If you really wanted to start like an anti-Israel organization or whatever, it's so easy to get funding.
That was JFK. He didn't want to support what Israel was doing, and then he got
not
killed.
letting me finish my sentence, man. So I'm going to have to go to the next question. It's very simple, okay? If you wanted to go like start a Turning Point USA to go like fight against Israel, I could tell you someone that would finance you with a lot of money. Go to the Muslims and they would finance that organization to the sky. But why isn't that...
It's not about fighting or
Hold on, you just said no one's going to finance it. There's literally 1,000 Muslim organizations. You can go to
I'm talking about America.
No, there's plenty of Muslims in America. Elon Omar could finance your organization. Rashida Tlaib could finance your organization.
I want to work with Christians, as do you. I want to work with you.
I got it.
And I think we could.
But Christians have a reverence for the Jewish people, as we should. Our Lord
was a Hebrew. If they openly deny Jesus Christ, then there's this expectation that they can do whatever they want to a certain degree.
We should have a mercy.
We should still give them it because they're God's chosen people.
They are God's chosen people. We should have a mercy.
So are we, though.
Well, so actually, I don't necessarily. I don't. If you mean by the elect of Christianity being chosen, I will agree.
I mean, everybody can be chosen.
The keepers of the law, which are the Jews, are God's chosen people.
But the law is finished.
Well, no,
Jesus Christ is the end of the law. That's what it is. That's the truth.
No. Jesus said, "I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law."
So he fulfilled the law. Do they follow Jesus, or do they follow the old law?
It says that the ordinances of Moses were nailed.
Old Testament and New Testament.
You're not letting me finish. I'm sorry. I'm trying to help you out here. You're not, again, went too deep theologically. We have a difference of opinion. I believe that we have a moral obligation to defend the Jews and to understand that they are God's chosen people.
Should we defend the Palestinians, though?
Okay, you're not letting me finish. Thank you. Next question. It's not in good faith.
Christ is king. Look into it. Look into the JFK assassination. Look into the Epstein files. It's true.
Thank you. And they wonder, they're like, well, no one lets me speak. Yeah, because you keep interrupting, you're not getting the hat. No, you acted like a jerk. You're not getting the hat. Thank you. You didn't let me talk, man.
That's petty. Give him the hat.
All right, so I appreciate you signing that for me. So, Charlie, you don't know who I am.
Yes.
You don't know who I am, but you do know who I am. So I want you to answer me this. How is it that coming up in Chicago, East Garfield, and coming up in Cabrini Greenstone, can you tell me how is it that coming from a city like that and getting to a place where we came from a single-parent home to a no-parent home, can you tell me how is it that I was able to get married, which in June I'll be married 24 years. I have a 23-year-old son and a 21-year-old son, got through school, got a degree, went back and got another one. Can you explain to me how systemic racism kept me from doing that?
It doesn't. Systemic racism didn't, because every person can make good decisions and flourish in this country regardless of the color of their skin.
So then how is it that somebody like me did it though? I mean, wait, I'm black. I'm coming up in a oppressed era, so can you tell me how I was able to achieve that?
You tell me.
Well, from what I'm being told, it's because I was lucky.
It was probably hard work, good decisions, maybe a pastor or a mentor that, you know, gave you good guidance.
So then why is it so hard for everybody else to look like me to understand that?
You asked them.
Trying to. By the way, shout out to Bloomington, Illinois. I'm the guy that actually went viral for destroying CRT at the school board meeting.
I love it. Well done, man. Thank you. We'll do a couple more, guys. Any disagreements, guys, in the line? Not, yeah. Can we do a better job, guys?
Yeah, so let's go. Thank you.
David Paul Belushi?
Oh, I don't know. Anyways, I'm up here because I have a question. I know you mentioned Andrew Tate earlier, or was talked about in some sense. I am a member of his university, and I believe it is a great product.
No, they were sitting here.
I do. I believe it's a great product. I've made a lot of money from it. And by the way, most of these hats were from women, so I do respect women. And I just want to get your thoughts on Andrew Tate. I mean, I don't agree with everything he says, but I do agree that he has an excellent university teaching young men, and women too, there's women in there, how to make money outside of traditional university sense.
I don't really have that strong of an opinion. I've never met him, so it's hard for me to judge from afar. Some people have some really strong opinions against him, calling him terrible things and saying, I don't know, he's like a sex trafficker or something, which I find to be, you gotta have really good evidence to throw around those kind of accusations. I instead will talk more about like the form of the void that Andrew Tate filled, because I think that's probably more appropriate. Young men are looking for mentors. They're looking for icons. They're looking for people to follow. They're looking for people that are strong and that are sharp. He's definitely very sharp, and that are quick-witted. And they're tired of kind of the femboy craze that has infected this country of, you know, like low testosterone, you know, vegan guys that are telling them to stop being so rambunctious. So I'm glad the university's worked out for you, and yeah, I don't have really any strong opinions either way.
Okay. Thank you so much, and I have a request from 2 other women to get a signed hat.
Okay.
And then could I get a signed hat as well?
Wow, that's a lot of requests. You are being tagged.
That sounds like socialism.
Very respectful.
Couple more questions. Disagreements, guys. Yeah.
Test. How you doing, Mr. Sir? So I agree with, I love you, by the way. So I agree with everything that you speak about, that you talk about, except one thing. So I drove 6.5 hours to debate this one thing and to settle it. So Michael Jordan is not the GOAT, it's LeBron James. LeBron James? Why do you think Michael Jordan's the GOAT?
I mean, man, it's so self-evident.
Okay, here you go. So earlier you were talking about how there's more whites back in the day, right? So it would be easier for Michael Jordan to play in the league against more whites.
That wasn't in the 1990s.
Okay, but
the league was fully and well integrated by the 1990s.
Who was the Hall of Famers that he played against in the finals?
Isaiah Thomas, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Hakeem Olajuwon.
No. Okay, so it's like a no. Listen,
not Pistol Pete, but John Stockton.
Okay, no, but listen. It's like a Domino's pizza, right? So if
I've met you before.
No, you haven't met me. This is the first time we've met.
I think you were at Missouri State University.
Oh, you're lying. Okay, but not
no, I'm right.
This is like a dumb.
No, I'm right.
You are not.
You were at Missouri State University.
You want to shoot for it? 1-on-1? We'll shoot for it.
Yeah. No, you asked about the pizza.
No, I don't lie. No, but for real, it's like a Domino's pizza. Do you want a pizza with good crust? Or do you want a pizza with good crust, good pizza sauce, good cheese? That's what LeBron James is. He's got the whole package. Michael Jordan, what can he do? What can he do? He can score.
He can do what he did in 6 years.
There was only one player ever to win the Finals MVP, the regular season MVP, playoff MVP, scoring champion, and defensive player of the year, and that is Michael Jordan. 6-0. By the way, do you know that LeBron James is 0 for 14 in game-winning shots in the finals or in playoffs? And Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan had the most legendary.
There's one thing that my girlfriend taught me. Longevity is the king.
That's it.
I might not play that role, but that's what she says, and I agree with that. So LeBron James is way outplayed. He played baseball. What, is he a baseball player or a basketball player? Like, come on.
He was so good that he won 3 titles, played a little baseball, came back and won 3 more. So LeBron James has lost more finals than he has won. And how many finals did Michael Jordan lose?
He didn't lose any.
Yeah, that's right. But, so when you go into inner city Chicago or Philadelphia, are they wearing Jordans or LeBrons?
Yeah, no, they're wearing LeBrons.
Oh, they're wearing LeBrons?
Yeah, I wore LeBrons in the state championship.
What do they look like? Looks like you're wearing Nikes to me.
No, in the state championship, I rep some LeBrons.
Oh yeah, the LeBrons. Yeah, sure. If the NBA, is it more popular today in 2025 or back in the 90s?
It's fallen off, but I think it's
why. Who's the face of the NBA?
Caitlin Clark.
Oh, Caitlin Clark. Yeah. There is no argument. MJ is the GOAT. Thank you very much. You were from Missouri, though. I got a good memory, right? All right, we got a Michigan shirt here. We don't like this guy, but he's got Jordan, so I like him. So,
how you doing, Charlie? I'm Xander. I am a high schooler in the area, and I was assigned a project to prove how Christianity is the only true religion, and I'd like to hear your standpoint on that.
Yeah, first, the Bible is the most verified, authenticated historical document in history. It is self-evident that I believe there is a God outside of our atheistic friend. And we see in more ways than one how Jesus Christ liberates us from our sins. And the promise of Christianity is different than any other world religion. Every other world religion is about you trying to go closer to God. Christianity is God coming closer to you.
Okay, I understand. Can I have a hat, please?
Great, yeah. Good question. Thank you. All right, any disagreements? Yeah.
I wrote this all up. So me personally, I'm hesitant in believing that the future of America socially will ever become better because of extreme politics. So there's too much hostility between both political parties, each one thinking that one is evil and the other isn't. Where am I? The clashing has just become too much. And I want to get back to a time in America where people disagree with a handshake, not by cussing each other out and walking away. So I guess my question would be, as a coming generation of Americans, how do you feel, how do we go about healing ourselves to just becoming accepting of each other's political disagreements rather than grouping together with only the people we agree with and shunning those who don't?
This is exactly how we do it. We have open mic discussions on college campuses and let anybody come up, see where we agree or disagree. That is how we heal our land.
Well, I just mean socially, like, other than just what you do, I guess, what can I do and what can I encourage?
Find someone who you disagree with actively and try to look at them as a human being first and someone you disagree with second.
Because me personally, I'm kind of scared to share my political beliefs with some of my friends because I fear I might lose that friendship.
I get it. Well, they're not your friend then if you're going to lose the friendship over politics. So, thank you very much.
Can I get like 2 hats?
Just one.
Thank you. Can I get a sign?
Yes. All right. Anyone disagree in line? Yeah. Okay. You might be the last one. We'll see. And I got to drive up there.
It does not work for me.
Hi, Charlie. I just have a couple quick questions. Do you think the U.S. is the most wealthy country in the world?
Boy, that's a difficult question. Yes, we are objectively, but if you count debt, I mean, yes, I would say yes, but I think China lies about their economic.
And you would consider yourself pro-life, correct? So I'm assuming you're against universal health care. Why? That's what I know why.
Well, first of all, it's not a right. Second of all, we have tried universal health care on Native American reservations and the VA, and it's a complete and total disaster.
So you believe the government is unable to dilute money from the military, which we spend, what is it, $880 million?
Nearly $1 trillion, yeah.
Yeah, compared to China, which is like $309 billion. Second.
Yep.
We can't take any of that money and give it to healthcare, so lower income
we spend more than $1 trillion on healthcare. We spend close to $2.5 trillion on healthcare. So if you count HHS plus Medicare plus Medicaid, healthcare expenditures is our #1 expenditure in our government, by far. But let me just interrupt you. And health outcomes have gone down. Healthcare is not about healthcare, everybody. 90% of all our health problems are preventative. It's the food that we eat, the lack of our activity, the lack of vitamin D, the lack of supplementation, and the fact that our doctors are trying to push a pill for every ill. It's not a money problem. It is a systemic cultural health problem.
So, like countries in Europe that have universal healthcare, that have amazing health, you don't think their ideologies in healthcare can work with us at all?
Part of they actually are also seeing somewhat an obesity problem. It's not as bad as here, but #1, they pay higher taxes. #2, I would not necessarily look at the universal healthcare system of Britain, for example, as a great example. You could wait months sometimes for necessary care, sometimes almost a year. #3, though, they also have much better farming in Europe. That is one thing I will give them. They have regenerative farming, and I might get a lot of enemies here in central Illinois. A lot of you hate it, right? A lot of farmers are going to kill me for saying this. The way we farm in this country is so destructive to the nutrient value of the food that we eat. And I don't know if you guys know this, but if you ever visit Europe, the food is it agrees with your system far better from a digestive molecular view than even in America. So I'm sure you might agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think food is if you think about it rationally, the #1 thing you put in your body is food, by far.
Yeah.
And food can either be poison or it can be medicine. And large in time, part times in America, food has become poison.
I just have one last question. So you said healthcare isn't a human right, but you're pro-life. How does that make sense at all?
Yes, I mean everyone has a right to life, but healthcare itself is somebody else's property, and so in order to get healthcare, you might have to go to a charitable hospital or get somebody else to pay for it. But definitionally, you do not have a right to somebody else's stuff.
So you don't have a right to sustain someone else's life.
Well, no, that's different. So you have a right to life-saving care. Healthcare and life-saving care are two different things, right? So if you right now got, God forbid, you broke your leg or, someone had a gunshot wound, you go to the hospital, they don't check your papers or run your credit card first. We have the Miranda rights. We have a moral code that we will give you life-saving care regardless of the cost or the consequence, and that's a great Western value. But if you walk into the hospital and you're like, hey, I really want, my back hurts a little bit and I want to try to get it looked at, they're going to be put you in triage, be like, okay, no, if that makes sense. One is healthcare, and so there's two types of illness, okay? Here's a better way to think about it. There's chronic and acute. So we have the best acute healthcare in the world. So everyone craps on American healthcare. We have the best acute in the world. So if you have appendicitis, if you have a heart attack, there's no better place to have a heart attack than America. We're really good at solving heart attacks, okay? And so we have the worst, though, chronic healthcare. What is chronic? Chronic would be like lupus. It would be like type 2 diabetes. It would be like an autoimmune issue. That takes much more gentle care. It takes more holistic, more naturopathic solutions. Western medicine wants nothing to do with chronic disease, if that makes sense. So right now our problem is chronic disease epidemic, obesity, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune issues, where in reality they're treating it as if it's an acute problem. When you go to basically every doctor, if they can't fix it in 12 hours or less, it's not my problem, here's a bunch of pills, just keep yourself happy. So I think we need a whole lifestyle change of actually how we approach healthcare in this country. But every human being has a right to chronic care. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I got a hat. Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else disagreements or no?
One more.
Yeah. So disagreement can come on up. Oh, is that a violin or a cello?
Yeah, cello. Violin, sorry.
Yes, come on up.
Hi. So
Sorry, you have to make sure it's not a weapon or something. So I'm sure it's just a cello or violin or whatever. Yeah. Last question here. Yep.
Okay. So for context, I'm a devoted Catholic. So I respect you in that matter. But I feel like, and I also have a verse, if that's okay. So Mark 3:24-25 says, if a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. So I'm not a political person. And I feel like there's so much division here, and there's so much hate. So my question is, with the rise of political tension, is this turning Americans away from God?
It is. I think the way we solve our political tension is we have to try to point people to Jesus. And Jesus is the great healer of all of our divides. I will say that Jesus did say equally, I did not come to unite the world, but I came to divide the world. It's a very difficult teaching to kind of internalize. The truth sometimes can divide, but we must always bring people back to our Lord Jesus Christ. That's the most important message I have for you today, especially going through this Advent and Easter season, that there's a God who loves you. The gospel in 4 words is Jesus took my place. In 3 words, it is him for me. In 2 words, it's substitutionary atonement. In 1 word, it's grace. You do not earn a place in heaven. You do not do good things to go to heaven. It's by grace. God gave you a gift. He lived a perfect life. He sent his son on a rescue mission, who then showed us how to live, died the most cruel death in the history of man, to then rise on the 3rd day so that we can live forever and pay off our sins. Thank you so much. With that, everybody, that was a great event. Thanks so much.
Finally.
Charlie!
I'm recording.
We can't afford this shit anymore. Inflation's crazy. If you don't grow up, I better speak to Charlie. You guys are on that graduation site on a fuck-ass matchup. You guys are stupid. You are supporting a man who doesn't believe in college, so drop out. Charlie Kirk is a college dropout. Kidding me? Are you kidding me? Get out of here! Stop brainwashing your kids! Free John Ford! Free John Ford! Free John Ford! They're trying to defund your education! ISU fucked you too much.
Thanks, sir.
Stop brainwashing your kids! Hey, reach out more! John Mark is unconstitutionally obey! John Mark! John Mark, man! Get Charlie Kirk off our campus! Either side.
I see you. I'm over here. All right, love you, bye. Good job, guys.
Oh, yeah. Nice up. Nice up. Nice up. White hats. I go for
regardless of which side, they're going to do their job. Just to make sure that they're in business still. They
I'm famous. I'm famous.
just in case if they don't want them to be attacked. They doing a good job.